I met some incredible people working for Arise News and also worked on some absolutely incredible stories, whether that was the Bataclan attacks, whether that was the Ebola outbreak, or whether that was making a documentary about the first female, first Black, first Asian Vice President, Kamala Harris. There were some truly incredible experiences, including reporting throughout the COVID-19 pandemic on what was happening right here in London, whether that was the deaths of Black and brown doctors or whether that was on kids struggling to go back to school, which included filming my own daughter homeschooling right here at home. It really was formative years in my career in journalism, and met some incredible people and did some incredible work. Can't believe it's been 10 years of Arise News, and here's to many more.
Good morning out there. You're watching The Morning Show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati.
And I'm Ayon Myra Essay. Good morning.
And I'm Rufai Oseni. Glad to have Doctor back this morning. We've got a great show lined up for over the next 3 hours. Doctor, I miss you so much. So sit back, relax, and let's get started your day because the morning show begins right now.
The Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Festus Keyamo, has praised the courage of his All Progressives Congress governors who opposed President Muhammadu Buhari's administration at the Supreme Court over the CBN monetary policy. Mr. Keyamo, a senior advocate of Nigeria, said by their actions, the APC governors were fighting for the masses, fighting for the people to get succor against the policy of a government that he serves as minister. Meanwhile, while the spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council hails the approach of these governors, Mr. Osita Okechukwu, Director General of the Voice of Nigeria and a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, says he's yet to recover from the embarrassment over the governors' tantrums and court action against President Buhari and the monetary policy. Okechukwu further stated that he's yet to factor how on earth the governors were the most hurt out of millions of Nigerians as per naira redesign. In his conclusion, the DG, Director General of the Voice of Nigeria, VON, explained that he does not know any of them as crusader for the poor, that the truism is that in the fullness of time, the main motive of the protesters will be known. Joining us later on this show from Abuja to discuss President Buhari's commitment to free and fair elections this coming Saturday is Osita Okechukwu, Director General of the Voice of Nigeria, VON.
Moving things along, we shall be engaging Tolu Oderinde, a tech lawyer, to discuss the questions around reliability of BVAS machine using Osun judgment as a case study.
We'll also catch up on news making headlines across the globe, while Ruth Sodiri will update us on African business activities across the continent. Aaron Akerjala will be taking us through sporting activities across the globe. We'll also review today's newspaper with Arise News analyst Emmanuel Lefeni, while Audio, where we fill us in on what's trending around the world. It's going to be all that and a whole lot more today on The Morning Show. Welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the world. President Muhammadu Buhari is assuring Nigerians of adequate security ahead of the general elections on Saturday. Speaking from Addis Ababa, Buhari urges traditional and religious leaders in Nigeria to use their position to promote peace. He's also appealing to Nigerians to remain patient as the administration takes action to eliminate the hardship caused by the Naira redesign policy, I should say.
Fellow Nigerians, God has once again brought us to another season of general elections across the country. I am therefore calling on all of you to exercise your franchise in a peaceful atmosphere. I am calling on specifically our traditional rulers, religious leaders, and parents to warn their followers and wards alike to not allow themselves to be used by a few to foment trouble. I want to assure you that the government has taken adequate security measures to allow everyone to come out and cast their votes. I am therefore appealing to everyone to give them the necessary support. Fellow Nigerians, I want to use this opportunity to once again thank you for electing me to be your president on 2 occasions. Finally, I want to once again assure you that I am fully aware of the current hardship you are facing as a result of some policies of the government which are meant to bring overall improvement to the country. I am appealing to you to exercise further patience as we take appropriate measures to ease these hardships. God willing, there will be light at the end of the tunnel.
National Working Committee NWC of the All Progressive Congress, APC, and governors elected on the party's platform called on President Muhammadu Buhari to obey the Supreme Court's interim injunction on the naira redesign project, saying the policy and its implementation are causing tremendous difficulties to citizens and national economy. The national chairman of the APC, Senator Abdullahi Adam, in a resolution read yesterday at the end of an emergency meeting of the party, urged the president to intervene in resolving the issues which he said are causing great problems for the economy. Adamu had called the meeting to intervene in the current phase of between governors elected on the platform of the party and the president. In attendance were the presidential candidates of the APC, Bola Tinubu, 11 governors and 2 deputy governors.
We have resolved as follows. We note very seriously that the program and its implementation is causing tremendous difficulties to the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and to the national economy. That we urge the Attorney General of the Federation and the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to respect the Supreme Court's order of interim injunction, which is still assisting. That the meeting is urging His Excellency, Mr. President, to intervene in resolving the issues that are causing these great difficulties to the people and to the economy.
All right, a lot to talk about, Ayo.
Well, thank you very much, Rufai, and I must say welcome back again, Doctor. You're always missed when you're not around, so great to see you. Great way to start a very important week in the political landscape, and I dare say, in fact, the economy, life of Nigeria as we inch closer to the polls on the 25th of February 2023, which is on Saturday in 4 days' time, or in 5 days' time. Now, this meeting it wasn't a surprise. We had seen a circular that had gone around talking about the fact that the National Working Committee of the APC was going to meet with the governors who had been elected on the platform of the APC. They met at the National Secretariat, APC National Secretariat in Abuja. The outcomes, as we heard the national chairman say just a few minutes ago, is not surprising either, as the APC APC governors have not minced words in terms of their stance with regards to the naira redesign policy and, very importantly, the deadline set, the Supreme Court judgment, and the naira scarcity. Now, just a few things to highlight is the fact that, again, just responding to questions around the importance and why this has taken the APC governors, it has become priority for them to address amidst the many issues. Of course, we can understand why. They've talked about the hardship that their citizens or members of their states are facing, and so as responsible governors, they're standing out to speak against the policy. They've also been a disarray with regards to how the APC governors are suing their own president, the president in their own party, making the APC an opposition to itself, in effect. And so we've seen drama unfold in the past few days. Also put that side by side by the speech made by the president, which was earlier shown from the AU summit in Ethiopia, saying that he didn't change his mind around the fact that there was no going back, and just assuring Nigerians that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. So people should please exercise patience. Two things I'll just talk about here or highlight from this meeting. The APC governors had said the president's action could potentially cost the ruling party the forthcoming elections. And this is glaring. We've talked about this and said perhaps this is even more priority for them than the hardship that their people are facing, because they have an election to win, and it is then you then begin to ask the question that whose side is the president on? He reiterated in his address that he was supporting Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that he's reliable and was going to be building on the gains of his administration, which some of his party members have tried to dissociate from, saying that he was going to stand on his own record and stand on his own and even overturn some policies that the president has made. Again, people caught in the middle of this policy, I quite, should I say, commiserate or perhaps empathize with the bank staff, senior bank staff, who have had to stand in this middle and not know what to do. Should we collect 1,000 naira and 500 naira old notes, or should we listen to the president? And they have come under attacks by the customers that they serve. And so we need to come to a point where we understand what we're doing. We're going to talk about this later, where some governors are sharing old notes against the president's directives. People are complaining bus drivers are not collecting old notes. People had to walk. So there's hardship. So this is my final charge to the CBN. If this redesign policy, or if it must work, as the president has insisted that it's for the gain of Nigeria, let us flood the markets with the older notes. The 50 naira notes, 100 naira notes, nothing happened to them. So there shouldn't be a reason why they also should be scarce. The 200 naira notes that were returned, can they bring them back into circulation? In speaking to some bank officials, they had mentioned that the logistics problem, they hadn't gotten the notes. Can we have a situation, a solution to this issue in Nigeria so that we can have some peace and calm?
Okay. I think the issues, we got two reports there. Okay, two things to deal with. First, the broadcast by the president with regard to the elections. What the president has done is to reassure Nigerians that he remains committed to seeing this election through. And I think that that is a very strong, very good confidence-building, trust-building, move, narrative, declaration, reassurance, to the extent that the international community will be reassured that the president of Nigeria is truly committed. He has made this commitment again and again. I think 5 days to the election, 6 days to the election, the president saying the same thing, it's a very strong signal, both to the local community and international stakeholders. Nigeria not being an island unto itself. Number two, the president also restated that he is aware of the difficulties that Nigerians are passing through with regard to access to the new currency notes, but that his government will do whatever is possible to make sure that this is addressed. I think that that's a very important issue, and I hope that this week the Nigerians will begin to see a difference in terms of adherence, in that direction. He having ordered last week the CBN to make sure that the notes are available and that does not become a problem to the electoral process. Number three, he used the opportunity of his very brief address, the second within a week, to tell Nigerians that the candidate of his party is not running in this election, where he doesn't have an option in that matter. The tenure of the president of Nigeria is properly defined in the Constitution. It's just maximum of 2 terms in office, and he has exhausted that. We expect him to go on May 29. So he's not talking about 3rd term. He has said it repeatedly. So he says the candidate of his party is Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and he's urging Nigerians to vote for the candidate of his party. Well, what other people will say is that this election will be a referendum on the Buhari administration, on the APC administration in the last 8 years. And the people of Nigeria are the ones that should be empowered to make an informed choice and to choose whether they want to reward APC for what the APC has been able to do in 8 years or not, and whether they think that they want the continuity of, what they have experienced under President Muhammadu Buhari. But, we see the president in his last moments acting presidential. And I think, his strategies, last minute, they are beginning to get, smart ideas about how to be presidential and to say the right things. But that's by the way. The second issue is the leadership of the APC coming together over the weekend and saying the party stands by those governors who have gone to court. Now, those governors who have gone to court, APC governors, they instituted a case invoking the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to say that the naira redesign policy did not work, and that, they wanted an ex parte injunction to suspend it. And the court ruled on February 8th that, the status quo ante bellum, which means the position among the disputants before the crisis began, should be maintained. And that was the position that was again retained by the Supreme Court on Wednesday last week. But on Thursday, the president of Nigeria had a national broadcast in which, as I pointed out on this program last week, he tactically undermined the Supreme Court of Nigeria, because nobody is above the rule of law. It is true that under Section 308, that the president of Nigeria cannot be charged for contempt because he's in office. 74 persons cannot be charged. President, vice president, governor, deputy governors. The number is 74 in total. But the president undermined the Supreme Court. But people have also argued that the president acted under Section 5 of the Constitution, also acted under Section 14, subsection 2 of the Constitution in the public interest. So, which do you place above the other? Public interest or the rule of law? And that's why you have that disagreement between Festus Keyamo, SAN, and Babatunde Fashola, SAN. Both of them arguing from the two ends of the spectrum. Keyamo saying the rule of law should prevail, Babatunde Fashola saying public interest should prevail. And I think that is what makes this week very interesting for Nigeria. When the Supreme Court reconvenes on Wednesday, and all the consolidated suits on both sides, 10 on the side of the plaintiffs, 3 on the side of the respondents, the Attorney General of the Federation having been joined by the governors of Bayelsa and the AGF Bayelsa, AGF Edo State. It will be interesting to see whether, as Michael Zekome has argued in the public domain, whether the Supreme Court will back and bite and reprimand the president. However, as I pointed out yesterday on another program on this station, there have been countries whereby the Supreme Court, the government overruled the Supreme Court. And there are a plethora of cases from the United Kingdom, Italy, Spain, Belgium, Germany, even the United States, where the court, the apex court will rule, and the government of the day will say, no, we are going in this direction, and nothing will happen. So we face a constitutional crisis. We face a test for jurisprudence. I think Wednesday will be crucial how their lordships, treat the matter. But what is important at the end of the day is not the argument among the learned silks on one side or the other. What is important is that this is a crucial week for Nigeria. Saturday, we are all going to the polls. Presidential and National Assembly elections. The people of Nigeria should be the ones to be empowered to vote. Some governors have overruled the president of Nigeria. Do they have such powers? They have ordered that the old notes, all the old notes should still be in circulation. But Wednesday will be the determining factor. Will the Supreme Court of Nigeria show courage? Or will the Supreme Court of Nigeria be cowardly? Or will the Supreme Court of Nigeria throw his hands up in despair? But whatever happens is that Nigerians want to vote. And there is great enthusiasm out there. And we support that enthusiasm and aspiration and the declaration by the president that his government is committed to this transition.
Right. So a lot will have to unpack. The president is out there. Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, gives a speech, about a 2.5-minute speech, says it the way it is. He understands the plight of Nigerians. Yes, Nigerians are suffering. We're not going to move away from that. But the truth is, let's empirically analyze what is causing the suffering. It is largely because of the shenanigans of our politicians. Also, the CBN should be able to do a lot as regards its logistical process. Largely the shenanigans of our politicians because they are mopping up a lot of cash for elections. And it is obvious. The president named the candidate of his party and said, please vote for him. But let's also put on record, this was the same candidate that said, and I quote, they have no brain. They turned 200 naira to 800 naira. That was Buhari's legacy. That the candidate of the APC, Bola Tinubu, just tore to threads. And these are facts. Fact check me. If Bola Tinubu never said that. It wasn't doctored. Fact check me. That was the policy and the legacy of President Muhammadu Buhari that the APC candidate sold to Nigerians in 2015. Say Baba, say Buhari. So there's an anathema. And this anathema even leads to the meeting that was held in Abuja. The APC governors kicking against the president. In the mix of all of this is the Supreme Court. And hopefully the Supreme Court will be able to sit on that case because more cases have been added. I saw another one filed recently by A.G. Owonikoko. Maybe it's an addendum. We'll see how it pans out in the Supreme Court. So the president has said all the right things as regards calming the people down. And please calm things down. Everybody's all feeling the bite. But sorry about it, Nigerians. And the CBN too should do a lot to ease out the logistical interplay. But going further, there's a civil war in the APC. 2 factions. You can even see 2 ministers fighting, Keyamo and Fashola, in public interest. Yes, the president might have taken his decision in public interest, but Keyamo is saying no, contempt. And they are going back and forth. These are 2 ministers in one cabinet. So the cabinet itself is divided. Many people in the APC are at loggerheads. I think the bone of contention we should ask is, why are the APC governors so hell-bent on spending this money prior to elections? They have visible evidence. One is what happened in Osun State, where the old note was being given in vote buying to somebody. And the next thing they said is, don't worry, they will collect it after the election. The governor will be re-elected. We'll collect it. But that same money on the street has lost its value. And that's why that woman was adamant. And please, Nigerians, be careful what you fall for this political season. And when I even saw the amount of money, so is your 4 years future worth 5,000 naira? That's why you've got to say no to vote buying. Taking it another step further, the other argument people make, I've also heard this argument, is why now? Why didn't President Muhammadu Buhari do it in 2019 when he was running? Then the vice president gave trader money. Why didn't they do it then? Is there any timeline on doing the right thing, I ask? Is there any timeline? Is there any timeline on doing the right thing? Once you discover something is the right thing to do, should you put a particular timeline and say you can't do the right thing at this time? I also ask. Yesterday made it 5 years since Leah Sharibu was captured. I would have thought that these governors, or the governor in which the states, in Dapchi, where Leah, would have taken the federal government on. I made a lot of noise as regards it. But we've all moved on, so it speaks volumes about the priority. And that's why Nigerians, please, it is going to be a very crucial week. The number one thing you'll do is please be calm, because a lot of provocation will come this week. Be very calm, look forward, and also look at the arguments empirically. Nobody is saying people are not suffering the hardship. But we've given the stated reasons for the hardship. Because you see, this same money you say is not in circulation. One way or the other, politicians will get it to spend on election day. You'll see. You'll see videos. You'll see the facts. So the money is being largely mopped up, and there are evidence as regards people mopping this up. The deals politicians are making with banks. But you need to be calm. This too will pass. And largely, most of the pressure you will see will automatically reduce after the elections. So please, do not be caught in this whirlwind. Let the Supreme Court do its thing. Let the Supreme Court sit on the cases in this week. We'll see how it pans out. But also, let's also be circumspect and look truly into the details of the matter. God will help and bless and continue to sustain the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We'll have safe elections this week, and things will be well with our great country. But we need to be circumspect Nigerians. These elections are like none we've ever had in recent time. It is for the soul of Nigeria.
Okay, just before we go, you referred to the case in which AJ SAN's name appeared. That's another suit that has now been filed by the APC governors, challenging the decision, the directive of the president of Nigeria to say that old 200 naira notes should continue to be in circulation till April 10. And they are saying that is in contempt of the Supreme Court. And in that, application that they have filed before the Supreme Court, they are asking the court to invoke its disciplinary jurisdiction under Section 6, Section 232, and Section 287 of the Constitution. So that's another matter entirely. And there are people like, Zekome and others who are saying that the Supreme Court should not allow it to slide, that the Supreme Court should back and bite, even if the president is protected in the meantime under Section 308 of the same 1999 Constitution.
In all of this, time will tell. Thank you so much for the update, Dr. Abati. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Rising analyst Marlon Lefeni join us to review top stories in today's newspaper. Stay with us.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vault it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business, we vault. Vault is the answer. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Vault is the answer. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business with Vault. By Polaris Bank.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Vault is the answer.
Every day, life presents hopes, dreams, and challenges. Challenges that can become successes with a little help. Because a little help can empower you to go from despair to celebration. A little help can keep you going until the race is won. A little help can turn bundles of anxiety into a bundle of joy. And with Glow Data, you get much more than just a little help. You get the biggest data deals in town to make every day glow with small wins and big wins. Dial *777# to select your Glow Data plan.
When malaria won't show power for your side, it gon' knock you down. I'm a temp soft gel. Are you are? Me I can tell you no say. Malaria my lesson when no get bad days. Oh, come out and it easy to swallow. I got red game changer. I'm a temp soft gel.
Say no to malaria. Yes to life.
Hello guys, do you know that in his renewed Hope 2023 action plan, Bola Tinubu promised to fix our national security by implementing these common sense measures? The Bola Tinubu administration will increase the number of military and security personnel on active duty across the country, introduce modern doctrines and practices to better engage and defeat terrorists, kidnappers and bandits, upgrade weapons systems and introduce greater domestic production of munitions, introduce new border, forest and community security forces specializing in the protection of remote areas and variable terrain, reposition the police institution to focus on its primary duties of community policing and maintaining law and order, improve salaries and welfare for the families of our fallen heroes. This is the man who turned Lagos from a dangerous, often scary place where crime was the norm into a relatively safe and crime-free place it is today. He has the ideas, he has the track record. Vote APC for a safer and more secure Nigeria. This message is powered by the APC PCC Youth Directorate.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni, the great Malabite. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben. You're back from Abeokuta. You've not told us what you went to do. Okay. Good morning, Rufai.
Good morning, Ogami Malabite. I saw you yesterday at the Malabite interview. The first thing you said, like Malabite.
Malabites are everywhere.
I was watching your show yesterday. I said, oh, Dr. Abati.
Rufai,
Ayo, we have to go to night school in Malago.
Rufai, this is the best time to indicate that you are Rufai without L.
Yes, so.
Good morning, Ayo.
Yes, so. Rufai without L, so. I know why you are saying it. Yes, so. It's not me, oh.
Yes, let's start the review with this day. Nigeria's newspaper of record, the lead story. Fashola disagrees with Keyamo. Says present action, not contempt of Supreme Court. Video of vote buying with 1,000 naira old notes in Ogun. Surfaces ahead of election. Buhari vows to end hardship faced by Nigerians over naira scarcity. Appeals for more patience as Nigerians' actions are taken, as more actions are taken to ease pains. Your loots now completely useless. Kwan so towns APC governors. Dogara hails Buhari's move to curb vote buying. Yes. 2 ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria disagreeing over the president's broadcast. Festus Keyamo, Minister of State for Labor and Employment, but more prominent these days as a spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. And I can understand, of course, he is a senior advocate of Nigeria, weighing in on the side of the law, which many senior advocates of Nigeria have also stated very clearly, that the president was wrong in his broadcast when he decided that the 500 naira old note, the 1,000 naira old note ceased to be legal tender in spite of the Supreme Court interim order. But senior advocate of Nigeria, Babatunde Fashola, of course, very prominent as a works minister, he said, no, the president only took the step to help ameliorate the pains of Nigerians who are becoming the unintended victims of the policy. Well, we'll see this back and forth as the days go by. 5 days to go to the presidential election, but we are seeing an APC that is at war with itself. I don't want to say perpetually, Ruben. I know you know where that comes from. But the APC seems to be at war with itself in the countdown to the presidential poll on Saturday. And of course, above the masthead, above the lead story, APC Governors National Working Committee take battle to President, insists naira redesign policy hurting people economy. Other newspapers are reporting the story. The Guardian newspaper, Tinubu, APC governors beg Buhari Malami to respect Supreme Court. From Addis Ababa, Buhari calls for patience over naira hardship. Banks not ready for 200 naira payment as cash squeeze enters 4th week. Now, El-Rufai instructs Kaduna MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies to accept old notes. Merchants mop up old 500 naira, 1,000 naira notes. Now, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, Naira swap policy, APC National Working Committee, governors ask Malami to prevail on CBN. The Punch newspaper, APC governors, bank CEOs in last-minute rush to clear naira mess. 12 governors, APC chair want Emefiele Malami to obey Supreme Court order. Naira crisis has brought so much pain, Adamu laments. Ganduje Abiodun absent. Bank CEO want old notes collection extended to avert protest. Attacked on branches. Why the New Telegraph, APC crisis, cash crunch, Tinubu, Progressive Governors Forum, National Working Committee, minus 7 governors meet. Yes, the Abuja Inquirer, yes, the city paper of Abuja, also reporting that story. APC in crisis meeting, back governors on naira redesign case against federal government. Fear of cash scarcity affecting INEC logistics. The Daily Trust newspaper, insecurity, credibility fear may affect voter turnout. Candidates eye Northwest 22 million votes. Why previous elections recorded low turnout, experts, security, others to determine turnout. CDD, yes. They need to guarantee that there will be security on that day. INEC is ready. The police, Inspector General of Police, has said the police is ready as the lead security agency on election day. The army being on the periphery, I also said they will give all the support to ensure that Nigerians can troop out and cast their vote for the candidate of their choice on election day. Saturday, February 25, is the day. Now, of course, also in the front page of the Daily Trust article, 6-time lucky or last riddle. Yes, article, trying for the 6th time. If the number of times you try determine whether you win, then article. But Nigerians will decide on Saturday whether it's article, whether it's Peter Obi, whether it's Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, or Kwankwanso, or even Omoyele Sowore, who is also a presidential candidate on the ballot. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper polls tension grips INEC over insecurity. Yes, we need to allay the fears, both INEC and Nigerians, of course, with attacks still taking place in the southeast, attack on police stations. Yes, there's palpable anxiety. But again, the security agencies must do their job, because the duty of INEC is to conduct polls, not to provide security. Those in charge of security must ensure that we have a secure environment. Now, if we look at the foreign newspapers quickly, the Financial Times, Poland calls for NATO to guarantee Ukraine's security after end of war. First anniversary of invasion. Biden said to visit Warsaw. US and Germany cautious on pledges to Ukraine. Now, the New York Times is reporting, year into war, Putin's nation is self-portrait. Leader purged dissent and West influence from his country. Also, in the front page of the New York Times, US strives to head off a global rift. China must arming Russia, officials say. Ruben Rufai and Ayo. I hope there's some time.
I think, like we've said, it's crunch week for elections.
Yeah.
You know, people should go out there, be safe. I mean, I think we pretty much talked about the back and forth in the APC leading up to the election. Let's see what the Supreme Court will say as regards this naira, redesign thing. Most of the candidates wrapped up their campaign in the course of the weekend. Kwankwaso campaigned on Kanu yesterday at Boka in the Damawa. Tinubu is going to be having a massive rally in Lagos on Tuesday, so I think you should travel routes for that. But most importantly, I want to go to the foreign scene. There was the Munich Security Conference yesterday. Kamala Harris made a spirited speech, but I think the little defection was Macron. When Macron said yes, because a lot of people kept on saying, let us crush Russia. Macron said, no, let us defeat Russia, but let's not crush Russia, because there are far-reaching implications for geopolitics in Europe and the likes. And the fact that this war has extended for a while, and Poland is saying, okay, let us optimize things with Ukraine, because the Russians are having a barrage of missiles into Ukraine as we speak. So, but let's see how this pans out in the coming days. The Munich Security Conference it will be done. It's done and dusted. But let's see what Europe will decide as regards this war fought by Russia and its allies like Prigozhin and Belarus.
The big issue at the Munich Security Conference was the meeting on the sidelines between Antony Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State, and Wang Yi, top diplomat of China, where the U.S. drew a line in the sand. If you want to board the Titanic, it will sink. But that has serious implications. We hope that that will not happen and that we will not return to the era of the Cold War. And the U.S. wants China not to attempt to give lethal weapons to Russia to further escalate the tension as we approach the first anniversary of the Russian-Ukrainian war. On the issue of Keyamo and
Babatunde Fashola.
Well, the question is, which comes first, national interest or the rule of law? Lawyers, some other lawyers, don't let me say all lawyers, because Fashola is also a senior advocate, will say if you look at State versus Solomon, you look at Governor of Lagos State versus Ojukwu, you look at Abacha versus Fawehime, the rule there is the principle in Section 287 that the ruling of the Supreme Court is supreme. Not even the President of Nigeria can vary it. But when the Supreme Court reconvenes on Wednesday, We'll see what the Supreme Court will be saying. Maybe we'll be reminded once again of the golden age of that Supreme Court. Or we'll find a Supreme Court that will say, well, they do this in other places too. The governor has powers, but even the powers of the president are not absolute. Those are the jurisprudential issues in that regard. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Efene. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll be talking to Osita Okechukwu, Director General, Voice of Nigeria. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, my people, reason this thing now.
When PDP day,
our country be safe. Naira strong, economy they grow. Fuel, 7 naira, rice, 8,000.
Our life in better. Oh.
When change people come, no work, no food, economy for gutter. Naija boro, banditry full town, japa left and right, japa up and down.
No need to gamble.
Same choice.
PDP don't come.
Same choice.
Recover Naija.
Same choice.
We don't tire to suffer.
Same choice.
Experience mind.
Same choice.
We don't want experiment.
Same choice.
Get them right.
Same choice.
This time our life. Oh.
Same choice.
Recover Nigeria.
Same choice.
Atiku na the man. Oh.
Same choice.
Atiku Adokowa.
Same choice.
Na the only choice. Oh.
Same choice.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Think Zenith. In today's fast-moving, fast-changing world, you need a financial partner that understands your unique expectations. A bank with presence in major financial centers across the world, with the enabling platform to facilitate seamlessly, whenever, wherever, however. A bank with best-in-class financial solutions from a superb combination of technology and human touch. For easy, fast, and secure banking that creates real value. Turning dreams into reality is now in your hands. People, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Great people of our land, now as we stand at the dawn of light, did you know that while our gallant men were fighting off bandits and insurgents, we were also laying a solid foundation for the infrastructure revolution to spark the growth of our economy? Did you know that the APC government has put our trains back in motion? That we have completed and commissioned 569 combined kilometers connecting Nigerians to friends, families, and trade by trains, creating hundreds of thousands of jobs across the value chain. Now, as we stand at this dawn of light, let us move forward with renewed hope. Let's elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Kashim Shettima as President and Vice President to birth the greater Nigeria of our collective dreams.
This message is brought to you by the National Working Committee of the APC.
APC Progress!
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Festus Keyamo, has praised the courage of his All Progressives Congress governors who opposed President Muhammadu Buhari's administration at the Supreme Court over the CBN monetary policy. Mr. Keyamo, a senior advocate of Nigeria, said by their actions, the APC governors were fighting for the masses, fighting for the people to get succor against the policy of a government that he serves as minister. Meanwhile, while the spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council hails the approach of these governors, Mr. Osita Okechukwu, Director General of the Voice of Nigeria and a chieftain of the APC, says he's yet to recover from the embarrassment over the governor's tantrums and court action against President Muhammadu Buhari and the monetary policy. Okechukwu further stated that he's yet to figure out how on earth the governors were the most hurt out of millions of Nigerians concerning the redesign of naira notes. In his conclusion, the Director General of the Voice of Nigeria explained that he does not know any of these governors to be crusaders for the poor, that the truism is that in the fullness of time, their main motive will be known. Joining us now on this show from Abuja City is Osita Okechukwu, Director General, Voice of Nigeria. Mr. Okechukwu, thank you very much for joining us. Good to have you on the morning show.
Good morning, veteran Ruby, incisive Rufai and my sister, and good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Okay, quickly. What do you think is the motive of the APC governors who have filed one suit? They've consolidated their suit. Hopefully, will be told so on Wednesday at the Supreme Court. And they've even filed another suit against the President of Nigeria for suggesting that old 200 naira notes should be in circulation till April 10. What do you think could be their motive, which you were quoted as saying will be known in the fullness of time?
Permit me to start by saying that there's no cause for alarm because there are subsisting national consensus on this matter. One, the greatest number of Nigerians believe what Mr. President is saying, that he wants to bequeath Nigeria with free, fair, and transparent election. And most of the governors of the APC, PDP, and the rest also believe that that would be a good legacy for Mr. President to leave for the Nigerian people. Secondly, there's also a national consensus that the naira redesign or swap policy is also a good economic policy, which a lot of us remember that Mr. President did the same thing in 1984 when he was the military head of state. And given hindsight, there must be some benefits, as he had repeatedly said, in improving the Nigerian economy. Thirdly, we all share the unintended agony following the poor implementation of the policy. But as Mr. President said, the hardship will soon ease. I also know that both the CBN governor and every other person concerned about pushing more money, especially the new ones, into the system, they're working around the clock. We should not forget as well that printing the new currency, because of the features, security features it has, is not a one-day job. And fourthly as well, we all agree that my great party's governors, for me, there was no need for the overdrive. That was what I meant by that I could not phantom, because they cannot be more affected by His Excellency Atiku Abubakar. Last week, Buba Galadima told us the push for the Atiku Abubakar team to get Kwankwaso to step down for him. And only one God knows the carrots that were placed for such a negotiation. So I mean sincerely that the governors of the APC had more access to Mr. President than some of us, and that we were brought up in a tradition. I think it's common in African tradition, but I know of the Igbo tradition, that if you have a tango with an elder, that the best you do is to meet the elder, explain your own side of the coin before you go to the marketplace. And these governors, both APC, PDP, ABGA, that are quoting the Supreme Court, they are the same people who today continue to breach the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Under the amendment of the 80th National Assembly, the Constitution was amended or altered to state that the funding of the state judiciary and the state legislatures should be what we call the first line charge of funding that exists between the Federal Executive Council and the National Assembly and the judiciary at the federal level. All of them stamped down on it. From 2018, in 2020, Mr. President raised an executive order to get it implemented. They collectively, bipartisan, which is very uncommon, went to the same Supreme Court. I don't know whether the Supreme Court or the governors underrate the import that is the Enugu State House of Assembly, the Sokoto State House of Assembly, the Cross River State of Assembly, the Ekiti State House of Assembly, have remained rubber stamp assemblies because they go cap in hand begging the governors, which makes the governors emperors.
All right.
The same with the state judiciary. And if anybody is talking of deepening democracy or helping the poor in Nigeria, that is where we could have started. That's why I said I do not know any of them. And most of them are my friends, my big brothers. We've come a long way with most of them. Nasir El-Rufai, like some of us, is also a Buharist. I don't know him as a crusader or any of them.
Okay, so let's examine, Mr. Okechukwu. It's important you talked about the fact that Governor Nasir El-Rufai is a Buharist. However, his actions following the president's speech last week, Thursday, belies that position. And I want us to actually examine what he said, because analysts have, there are different sides to the responses, but he's giving a direct contradicting order to what the president has said when he gave an address following the president's own address, where he said that in his state, 1,000 naira and 500 naira notes would continue to be legal tender in line with the Supreme Court's stay on injunction. I'd also like you to examine what people have said could be termed as treasonable, his actions, and also the fact that he said that this policy is designed to scuttle general elections and perhaps even make way for an interim government led by a retired army general. This kind of statement from a member of the APC is quite interesting, to say the least. I'd like you to examine that, please, and your view on it.
My sister Ayo, I talked of overdrive. So let's end it that I and most of us are uncomfortable with the overdrive. But luckily, the national chairman of our great party has held a meeting with all of them yesterday, and they have come to a middle ground. And they also listened to Mr. President in faraway Ethiopia, agreeing that the hardship, he's aware of the hardship and feels it, and is trying to gather unnecessary indicators to get it eased. So let's not go into deep of, I think that yesterday's meeting, which distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu, the national chairman of our party, convened, had put that to rest. Because far back in the United Nations General Assembly, Mr. President had insisted that he wanted to bequeath Nigeria with a legacy of free, fair election. And in February 2022, he graciously signed into law the Electoral Act, what I dubbed the vote rigging vaccine. My only appeal to my governors is that nobody has more money for this election more than Atiku Abubakar. But luckily, he had managed to keep calm. So, if you are talking about money, I don't think His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has more money than Alhaji Atiku Abubakar.
Well, it's difficult.
Both of them came from the same school.
It's difficult to ascertain that, isn't it?
I'm coming. Let me tell you one thing. I'm working on the history that I have. If you remember, you might be a young person that time. In the late 80s and 90s, that they defeated Jakonde in Lagos. It was their machine, what is called the Patriotic Front, headed by late Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua, with Atiku and Tinubu as his lieutenants. They defeated Jakonde. They went to Southeast, they defeated this person, they defeated this person. So they are all in tandem. They are brothers in this business. So it was unnecessary and uncalled for and an overdrive for us to make noise along that line. That is my position. We all feel the hurt of the system. But we also know that gradually, cashless society is permeating down the line. We were coming back from the church service yesterday with my wife. She stopped and said she wanted to pick corn from a roadside corn seller who roasts corn. And after buying corn, he asked the lady that I do not have cash. Can I do transfer? The lady quoted her number of Fed. And she transferred the money to her and we left. So gradually, I also understand from Professor Pantami that he's working on the providers of the platform, the digital platform that enhances cashless society. Please, some people with POS are saying that the POS is not working the way it should work. The banks are saying transfers, there are glitches. Okay. So that's what Mr. President said, that this issue will soon be sorted out. So there's no need for an overdrive. That's my position.
Okay, sir. Good to see you again. So, as a Buharist, I'd like you to answer this, that is it that there's a total disregard and disrespect for the president now in your party? Let me use the local parlance. Is it that they have, in local worry parlance, see finish Mr. President? And I'll give you why I say so. Because he had a meeting first with them, and he told them, give me 7 days. But they couldn't wait for 7 days, and they took him to court. This was after he had a first meeting with them that led to the extension, which they were happy about. Then they had another meeting after the extension was going to elapse, and he said, give me 7 days. And they said, no, we don't want you again. Then they went to the Supreme Court. So is it that all of you Buharists, like you call yourself, you and Malam Nasir El-Rufai, that used to grovel and kneel down in front of the president to say Baba at a point in time, is it that you people have not seen the president finish now? And is this reflective of your internal mechanisms in the APC?
I said, I want to repeat it. that luckily we must thank the national chairman of the APC for convening the meeting yesterday, Sunday. And in that meeting, what I could glean from that meeting is that he had tried to calm down the situation. It's no more talking of brimstone. He's just saying, we appeal for intervention. And luckily, Mr. President might be back before the weekend, or even today, I don't know. So that intervention might be by way of having more new currencies in the banks so that it could ease the access of Nigerians to their own money. There are a lot of ways of intervention. So the issue of the brimstone, or Mr. President have gone this way, no scripture, nobody can rule out a man who is alive. Ex-President Obasanjo had left office for getting to almost 20 years. Is he still not relevant? You could see him endorsing P2B and moving around the country trying to convince people to vote for P2B. So if you are saying because President Muhammadu Buhari is going back to Naira on May 29th, that is finished, I don't think there's wisdom in it. So I do not think my people will be thinking along that line.
No, but it's a reflection of what they have done, because a lot of people will argue with you that 3-4 years ago, they dare not do this to President Buhari. The governors dare not do this to the president. There was never a time that they challenged him head on this way. But this time, even to the extent, because you see, let me tell you how they have stretched the sea finish, to the extent that the president gave a speech, and afterwards that night, Governor Nasir El-Rufai gave his own speech that literally said, don't listen to the man, listen to me. That's sea finish. That means that's a total point of neglect. That means they played the president like a game of Teddy Picker.
Incisive Rufai, you didn't get this one right. What the governors of the country did to Buhari is unpardonable. Not this one. He has spent over 2-point-something trillion for the salaries they failed to pay to state workers and pensions. And even when President Buhari released this, and this is nearly part of his regime, that could have helped to a cushion we are now called world poverty level. How did this start? He released 2-point-something trillion for you people to pay pensioners and salaries of workers. Some were being owed up to 20-something months, some 10 to 20, some 6 months to 10 months. Some did not pay that. So it's not today that they started rubbishing Mr. President.
Okay.
But let's leave that one aside. What of the fact that I told you that under Bukola Saraki's president of the Senate, Mr. President was able to throw 2 items that are cardinal to restructuring: local government autonomy, direct funding of state legislature, and direct funding of state judiciary. They all combined together and dropped local government autonomy that could have advanced democracy, going by Section 7 of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. Then 2 were amended: direct funding of state legislature and direct funding of state judiciary. If you go to that same constitution, the 1999 constitution said that this constitution is supreme. Have there any of them implemented it? But Buhari said, this is democracy. I cannot whip my stick. If it was when I was military head of state, it could have been a different ball game. So they had not been kind to the Nigerian state.
Well, Mr. Okechukwu,
even in the external debt burden that Nigeria has today, everybody credits to Buhari. Do you know the number the state has? Lagos has 1.27 billion debt, external debt. Kaduna has 586 going by the Debt Management Office records. Same with the River State, some with Ogun State, Cross River State, down the line. So it's not today, but Buhari said, I'm a Democrat convert. I'm a convert, so I had to follow the rule of law.
Anyway, look, Mr. Okechukwu, those debts are on the books. Those states will still have to pay those debts, whether the individuals are still the ones who are governors or not. However, what we're dealing with is realpolitik. It's not about President Buhari being finished. The truth of the matter is that he's lame duck. Once the president is lame duck, the people around him will start looking ahead. And that's what those governors are doing. They know that they are no longer beholden to him. In fact, after the presidential election on Saturday and the result is announced and Nigerians know where the country is going and who is the next man, you will be shocked. That presidential villa will become ghost town. If President Buhari calls some people, they will not pick his phone calls. In fact, some of them will pretend not to no longer have his phone number or the State House direct line. You know. So this, I'm speaking to you as someone who has passed through that route. Whether it remains, relevant when he leaves office or not is a question of his legacy. But Nigerian politics is dominated by opportunism, okay, and psychophancy, and people moderate their psychophancy in terms of the opportunities that they can get. So don't be surprised that the governors are behaving that way. However, President Buhari has gone on air to say, vote for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm not running in this election, but we have a candidate. But governors within his party are fighting him. The same presidential candidate that is defending has publicly accused him of not showing good faith. This election, it appears, will be a referendum on the APC administration in the last 8 years. Why should anybody vote for the APC if the governors and other principal stakeholders within the party do not believe in the legacy of their own president? Should they be rewarded for their misconduct? That's the big question, in my view.
Don't forget that we still control the greatest structure of the 846 polling units. Some of us, we are working down on the ward level. Do you think I want to lose my little office at DG Voice of Nigeria? I'm working day and night to get the APC at my ward level to scale. So also, all those appointees, out of 469 members of the National Assembly, we have majority. Don't have a stake to get the APC. That's why I'm telling them there's no need for overdrive. The election for us is for us to win. Asiwaju had nothing to fear. That's my position.
Okay. That
we have all the apparatus of winning an election any day, any time. Yes, we didn't meet up in certain circumstances, but a lot of Nigerians have seen where collapsed dams were revived by Mr. President, where the roads the PDP abandoned over the years, where the electricity companies they sold had failed, and they are telling us they want to sell again. Do you think Nigerians are blind or deaf? We're not deaf. We know that the PDP have nothing new to offer. What they are doing is a hunger to come back to power. So they have nothing new. Is it, will His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar turn a new leaf from the way he sold what he sold? Even this hotel, under the World Bank criteria, you don't sell state-owned enterprises that are making profit. But they sold this hotel, the Hilton Hotel where I am. They sold what is necessary to be privatized and what is not necessary to be privatized. And their privatization process was less than transparent. Okay. That's why we have not returned back where we are. Don't forget the way the concession, the Mabila power plant, a station that could have been producing over 3,000 megawatts. But they locked us in what I said earlier here. That is like an agreement that was written by the tenant for the landlord. It became difficult for the landlord to get out of it because the agreement was signed by a government, a federal government of Nigeria, with the company. So Nigerians know that PDP and APC, nobody can distinguish us. It's the same coins. Unless we are talking of the new ones, like the Kwakwasia, the Obedient, those are the ones I'm bothered about. I'm not bothered about PDP. Atiku cannot harvest the Buhari's vote bank in the North. The North knows that Atiku never represented them. And Atiku will not represent the North. Yes, he's a Fulani, but he can't represent the North. They know him that he breached the constitution of the PDP, Section 7, that is engraved on rotational power from North to South. The excuse he has is that because Wike wanted to run.
Mr. Okechukwu, can I come in here, please? Because I still would like you to respond to Dr. Bati's question. He asked about the policies or the government of President Buhari. You're speaking about the PDP. PDP aside, what are some of the strengths on which this government should be rewarded with another term? Because that's what a number of Nigerians are asking. We are a few days to the elections and people are languishing on fuel queues. A few days to the elections, people do not have access to their money. A few days to elections, there's the level of poverty is high in the country. And so beyond what the PDP aspirant has done is what the APC government has done or perhaps hasn't done, and why the Nigerian people should vote for them again.
Thank you very much. What I'm telling the brother Ruby is that the Federal Executive Council will still take decisions until May 29th. And all those decisions will be valid. The National Assembly, until they dispatch the 9th National Assembly, will still make laws, and they will be valid. Whether the election next week, when it finishes, there will still be government in place until May 29th. But for the APC, nobody can deny that we are not Mr. Infrastructure. Nobody can deny that. The subsistence farmers in the country, or what they call small-scale farmers, cannot deny the APC. And no government that will come in place that will jettison. If you go through the manifestos of all the parties, especially P2B that talks of the large swath of hectares of land in the north, that's what Buhari has been doing. It will be a continuation of Buhari's program. If it's Asiwaju, the same continuation of Buhari's program. If it's Atiku, the same continuation of Buhari's program. And most importantly, for God's sake, when PDP was in power, in off-cycle election, off-cycle gubernatorial election, you dare not even put your head in it. You will lose. But we did not use the federal might. Even if you say Buhari did not achieve anything, the legacy of free and fair election is living on the ground. Will, for posterity, vindicate him.
Okay.
Did you ask yourself why we had more registered voters to 93 million points?
Okay.
It's because of the fact that they had laid a foundation for free and fair election.
Okay.
Why is there obedience? Why is there Kwankwasia? It's because of the free and fair election.
Okay, I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, sir. Can you hear me? I'd like to say a very big thank you to you. But a quick fact check. You kept on saying that the PDP sold this, the PDP sold that, and all of that. But the Director General of the BPE then, when most of these things were sold, happened to be Nasir El-Rufai, the incumbent governor of Kaduna State and a member of the APC. Just a fact check to balance it out there. All right, we'll take a short break. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you. When we return, we'll have Michael Wilson and Ruth Sodiri to give us updates on global and African business activities. Stay with us.
Emergencies happen when you least expect them to. It gets worse when you are cash-strapped. No need to despair. First Advance has you covered. You can get that urgent cash right now on First Advance. With First Advance, salary earners can get up to 50% of their salary. No hassles. As long as you earn a monthly salary and your salary account has been active for at least 2 months. It doesn't matter if you run a salary account with First Bank or any other bank. Just dial *894*11# or simply dial *894# on your mobile phone. What's more, when you open a First Bank salary account, you can enjoy 0 charges and free debit card issuance. Download the First mobile app on Play Store or App Store today. Log in to experience First Bank digital banking. Select loans, select First Advance, and follow the prompts to receive your loan. Don't let that urgent need get the best of you. Get First Advance now. It's as simple as dialing *894*11#. First Advance. Fast, convenient, secure. You first. First Bank.
There is a huge difference between the relative experience of salary earners and those of business owners and entrepreneurs. Someone who has never had cause to set up a business of his, who has never had cause to source for funds, turn it around, pay salaries, pay back the loan, and still make profit cannot be expected to be hands-on when saddled with an economy the size of Lagos. Experience that hasn't curbed Lagos's traffic in 24 years of their reign. Experience that hasn't addressed Lagos's perennial flood. Experience that currently leaves us with over 2 million out-of-school children. The duo of Jandor and Funke have been investing in Lagos's economy for about 2 decades, running their personal businesses, employing people with track records of success. Lagos needs a breath of fresh air. Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jandor as Governor of Lagos State. PDP! Power to the people!
Hi, I'm Pat Rankin, and they don't call me World Best for no reason. I only deal with the best. Be it auto or business, 100% claim is always guaranteed.
Welcome to world-class insurance services. We are Anchor Insurance.
Where insurance truly works.
Just stop it. You stop it. Hey there, you are so stopping it. Our currency is our pride. Let's all treat it well. Let's handle it with care and respect. Remember the cashless policy to reduce your cash transactions by using e-naira, POS terminals, the ATM, and USSD codes using your mobile device. Keep our naira clean and fresh. Be limitless.
This message is from the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. Good morning. So Asia really awaiting, as most of the markets are, quite honestly, waiting for the FOMC from the United States, their Monetary Policy Committee, their minutes later on. America is actually closed for President's Day today, so not a great deal of immediate news out of there. However, doesn't stop Goldman Sachs. They're looking at China. Their latest prediction is that stocks will be growing up about 24% in general in China. Really, they've moved from just thinking it will be reviving to actually reorganizing and really getting better as a financial country. And they expect a huge leap in the GDP of China when it finally sorts out its immediate problems and gets everybody back to work. So therefore, not an enormous amount of detail coming from the United States today, but generally speaking, because it's closed for President's Day, but generally speaking, officials are worrying about China again, and it's getting in the way of various trade deals which may be put forward. Trade tensions are still very much to the fore there between the two countries. Elon Musk is offering a cheaper Tesla. Now, if you remember when we were talking on Friday, there'd been a big 600,000 vehicle recall as far as Tesla was concerned, and also Renault saying that it wasn't going to compete on price, but now here he comes with what he says is going to be a cheaper Tesla, and they recall 360. Sorry, not 600,000. They recall 360,000 cars, and we're going to get the details of that on March the 1st. So the EU. Let's turn to the EU. Now, it's been suffering from a general and average lack of GDP growth, but not according to Ireland, which has grown 12.2% year on year. Ireland, particularly low corporate taxes, a lot of companies moving there, but not just that as well, a big pharma actually being produced in Ireland, so very much blowing the trumpet of itself within the EU. As far as Northern Ireland is concerned, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Rishi Sunak, hopes to seal the end of the Northern Ireland trade deal, get rid of the protocol, or at least talk through the protocol, having much more constructive talks. That's the kind of message that we're getting. We'll get details later in the week, but it does look as though the kind of detail that he's sitting down, very, very long meetings over the weekend with the Democratic Unionist Party, for one, which is very worried about this Northern Ireland protocol, i.e. this hard border between Northern Ireland and the island of Ireland. Ireland itself is in the EU. Northern Ireland is not at the moment because it's part of the UK. Very complicated. It needs to be sorted out. The battle for Manchester United is hotting up. US hedge fund Elliott. Now, they do not want outright ownership of Manchester United, but they're willing to help either Jim Ratcliffe or Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, which is the Qatari offer to bring about the deal. And a welcome bit of news for local investors in the UK. Anglo is apparently going to ramp up its activities as far as the Sirius mine is concerned in North Yorkshire. It's had a very, very difficult amount of money being thrown at it because nobody's quite sure whether it's going to work or not. But Anglo is this week going to ramp up production there. And finally, oil. Well, the oil price very much dependent, as we understand it, on China rejoining the world economy or not, as the case may be. As soon as it does that, demand will increase, the oil price will go up. That is the global view this morning.
All right, real quickly. A lot is happening on the foreign scene, and I'd like to talk, number one, will be about Europe's prospects with what is currently happening now, with the Russia-Ukraine war, the fact that Europe has paid so much in subsidies, and Europe doesn't have a rebate on those subsidies to be able to cushion the effect of oil and gas situations in Europe, and the fact that there's already a blowback on most economies in the Eurozone, vis-a-vis high numbers of inflation and rising costs. Because Europe is not saying anything about that. They've kept that on the back burner.
Well, the European Central Bank have said something about that, as they were saying last week. I mean, the jury is really out as to how they're going to deal with those problems. You put your finger on it, as usual, quite correctly. There are lots of different economies there, different states of their development. That is the problem. That always has been the problem with the EU. But I think generally speaking that they are coping slightly better with the oil and gas shortages, sourcing it elsewhere, and so on. All that's going. I think the real question about Ukraine and Russia is how long can Russia actually keep up the sort of onslaught it wants to do, and what will the spring offensive mean? These are questions which hang very much in the air, and it's not just a European war, of course. It's a war for the whole of the world, and I think Europe is quite keen to point that out. And I think once the UK has worked through this final detail on Brexit, I think relations between the UK and EU will improve. I'm very optimistic about that, because I think a slightly gentler touch is working with them.
All right, let's talk a bit more about this Northern Ireland protocol. I know you mentioned that Rishi Sunak is optimistic that he's going to reach a deal, despite the fact that the largest union in Northern Ireland, DUP, isn't quite in support of the Northern Ireland protocol. I'd like to get your view on the EU's stance on this, bearing in mind, obviously, the issues that they need to still iron out post-Brexit with the UK. And then, news around the fact that Meta is saying they're going to introduce subscription for blue ticks, just as Elon Musk did with Twitter. So on Facebook and on Instagram, individuals will be able to pay a subscription if they'd like to be verified, following some processes. But first, your take on the Northern Ireland protocol, please.
It's incredibly complicated, and again, I think once it's been settled, it does appear as though more emollient language is actually working, and I think the EU is on board for this. They recognise that there is a problem. It may be that this is all about borders. This is all about trade and borders. That's the main kind of thing. Will there be a similar kind of green and red lane as you have at normal customs at airports and so on? I suspect there probably will. Again, the detail of it is actually being worked on right now, and we'll hear a little more of that when it's taken to Parliament. I believe it's either going to be Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it's probably going to be Wednesday, and then we'll have the detail then. As far as what was oh yes. Meta, and I think we're getting to a stage now where these big social media companies are beginning to realise that they will have to charge. Advertising is not enough, and if you want that particular kind of service from Meta, then you'll have to pay for it. I think it's as simple as that. It's the way that they're evolving at the moment, and this isn't to say that, of course, they won't come under scrutiny from regulators as well. So things are firming up as far as social media is concerned, certainly.
Well, the big issue with the Northern Ireland Protocol and the post-Brexit negotiations, which went on yesterday between EU officials and UK officials, is whether Prime Minister Sunak will be able to call the bluff of the Democratic Unionist Party, that is considered very critical to this, and also the Conservative right. He was supposed to announce the plans today and present to Parliament tomorrow, but that has been delayed. Will he call their bluff and go ahead with the deal? That's what I want your opinion on. And then the Chinese Securities Regulatory Commission has now formalized the rules for companies that want to issue IPOs offshore with regard to national security laws and also personal privacy data. Now, given the increased, enhanced trade tension between the US and China right now, the evidence of which we still saw at the Munich Security Conference over the weekend, what effect do you think this is going to have? Will it make it easier for Chinese companies to list in the US, particularly as the Biden government is taking a second look at some of those impositions by the Trump administration, even to be more harsh?
I think that once people know where they stand, and that's been the difficulty with China. Once the details are worked out, whatever they may be, I don't think it will make life any easier or harder. Quite honestly, it's knowing what the regulations are and knowing what companies need to do if they want to either have Chinese companies having IPOs abroad or or companies wishing to be quoted as far as China is concerned. So I think that once there is a bit of clarity about that, it'll probably help, but it will take a long time. As far as calling bluff is concerned, and the DUP in Northern Ireland, I don't think he's been calling any bluff. And I'm not necessarily a supporter of Prime Minister Sunak. I'm just saying that what I've read is that he's actually sat down with them and they ironed out a lot of the granular detail. And I don't think that's a bad thing. There are certainly a lot of concerns about whether or not this helps the unionist cause or not, and whether it helps companies, for example, exporting from the UK mainland to Northern Ireland, whether they will have to go through customs checks as well. So basically what he's talking about is easing trade. I think when those details come out, the markets will have their own view about it. But until we actually see the detail of that, I can't really comment on it. But all I can say is that the mood music coming out of Northern Ireland, and especially from the DUP, has been constructive. And that's as far as it goes. A very, very thorny problem indeed.
Well, I hope the attack by Boris Johnson and Liz Truss has also been very constructive in this regard. But thank you very much, Michael. Now for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Odiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rotus. So look, the cashless conversation around Nigeria continues. Interesting update over with weddings now. It looks like the whole Owambe movements are going digital. Saw a video of a particular wedding where I think it's monopoly money, is being used to be sprayed at weddings. So essentially, all right, let me start that again. So the cashless drive is hitting weddings in Nigeria. So what we're seeing is that essentially, because you're not able to spray money, which is of course against the law, and we've seen that there are actually no notes to be sprayed anyway, people are giving, or rather making transfers to these operators at these particular ones, and then they printed out their own notes, so you get to spray those notes in exchange for the cash that the transfer that's been made. I don't know, this seems to be some kind of cultural thing. If you look at India, I think we shared this video before. In India, there was a wedding that took place where they were using QR codes to digitally spray. You can see this gentleman waving his phone over the couple's head. There was a video like this in Nigeria. I couldn't find. I saw it on Twitter briefly from like 2021, where they placed a QR code on a piece of wood, and people would scan the code, transfer money there, and then the other parts are where they would do this, and then move the phone, just wave the phones over their heads. But actually, and this is essentially going digital. That's what this is about. And so with this whole cashless thing, and with what's coming up with the Supreme Court and everything else, we're seeing businesses actually move there. I saw something interesting here. This was at a business center here in Lagos. So these guys are saying, CBN online registration for old naira, come here, we'll help you. What they're doing is they're helping people to fill the form online that will allow them to take whatever cash they have, that reference form, over to the central bank. Now, if you remember, if you look at the rules again, the guidelines, you can't do this for a third party. You must do it for yourself. That is, third-party deposits are not allowed, meaning that the information of the person that is filled on that form is the same individual that goes to the central bank deposit center to put the cash in there. So these very savvy, Lagos business owners, they're hustlers, man. They're just really, really sharp folks. So they're offering a service where if you don't have access, or for some reason can't fill it out, they will fill it out for you. You pay them, and then you now take that reference code to the central bank and then replace your cash. Now, the deadline though was the 17th, and when I saw that, I pointed this out to them. They said, well, they're still going to be helping people that need help. But I think the deadline has passed as far as the 17th is concerned. A couple tweets. Again, it's all cashless. This gentleman here says got to the market, and to his surprise, a guy who usually sells Maggi has got the new POS for his business. Saw a lady that sells crayfish, stockfish, also getting one too. We're getting there. This second tweet is a bit over the top, but it says the infamously famous informal economy has moved on, adapting fully. Well done to President Buhari and Gordon Emefiele. It's still a gradual process, but what is being seen is that in order to fall in line with where we're moving to, you are seeing more of these folks in the informal economy getting POS machines. And what does that mean? If more of them are getting POS machines, then that means they can get formalized, because now there's a trace. That is what electronic transactions, POS transactions, mobile transactions are all about. You can trace them. So now probably start paying taxes for the crayfish seller, the Maggi seller, and so on and so forth. Very interesting development in Ogun State. Some old notes popped up. Not sure if you saw this. They're being distributed with the governor's face on the envelopes. I think they were speaking in Yoruba, but take a listen. Take a listen.
Wọ́n máa gbà lọ́wọ́ yín, kì í ṣe ní mo kì yóò gbọ́n ni wọ́n máa gbà lọ́wọ́ yín ẹ máa ná so ó máa gbà lọ́wọ́ yín ẹ dúró ó ti sọ ẹ dúró ó ti promise pé ó máa gbà á. The government is coming back. Any mistake, we are coming back. So what do you say to the governor for this? What do you say? Ìyẹn ní kọ́kọ́ máa gbà lọ́wọ́ yín kí ẹ bá sọ fún gómìnà pé ó ṣe báyìí. Àmì Èdùmàrè.
Now, interesting enough, Governor Dapo Abiodun over the weekend put out a statement appealing to the president to allow for old notes to be used. Right, so the timing is incredible. If you go on his Twitter page, the governor, you will see a full statement with him saying allow the notes, and then you have those notes being distributed with his name, with his face on the envelope. South Africa, the Financial Action Task Force, which is a global body that reviews illicit financial flows. They're having sessions this week, starting today up until the 24th. Now, there is fear that South Africa will be grey listed, and what that means, this is Intelligex saying sword of Damocles, South Africa's FATF grey listing risk. If you get grey listed, that means that you are not doing well to curb illicit fund flows in your country, as if South Africa doesn't already have enough problems already from ESCOM and corruption charges and all these other things. So if the FATF decides to grey list it. Now, will the markets move? It's been suggested that the markets are already going to price this, saying that yes, we know we've got corruption issues, and we know that we're having trouble, stopping illicit fund flows in South Africa. So that decision, we expect that on the 24th, I believe, when that meeting is concluded. Finally, insurance in Kenya, Insurance Regulatory Authority in Kenya is looking to. I found this incredible. They are setting up an online portal in order to allow for customer complaints to be lodged. Apparently, it was done manually. And if you take a look at the number of complaints that have increased over in Kenya as far as insurance, I think, what is that now? With 1,686 from 1,637, 2021 to 2020 to 2021, the biggest complaint is delayed payments for insurance settlements and then declined claims. We keep talking about insurance penetration in Africa. Kenya has, I believe, the third lowest at 3%. South Africa is the highest at 17%. So who knows? If they get their online portal and digitize the way complaints can be attended to as quickly as possible, maybe we see an improvement there.
I mean this is a very good innovation.
Do you have time?
Kenya.
Yeah, hopefully.
I thought the director says we don't have time.
Oh,
okay. Thank you, Rotus.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Time for a short break now. When we return, Aaron Akerijola will be here with Global Sports Update. Stay with us.
Fellow Nigerians, all our best hopes for Nigeria are achievable. By every measure, Nigeria can be a better, stronger country. We can be a nation at peace, a place of shared prosperity where everybody is somebody, and equal justice under the law is enjoyed by all our citizens. In a few weeks, our country will go to the polls to elect political leaders and a president to lead our nation for the next 4 years. This is the most consequential election of our time. And we have it in our power to make the choice that allows us to achieve the grand possibilities of what Nigeria can be. Our path to greatness lies in recognizing the abiding truth that in a time of promise and peril such as this, the best thing we can do for Nigeria is to elect a leader with an established track record of achievement who has proven time and again his ability to triumph through adversity and succeed against the odds. In this election, that man is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now let me tell you about Asiwaju. This majestic yet profoundly imperfect democracy we have today is the legacy of men and women who in the years after 1999 used the instruments of law, politics, media, and advocacy to keep this country from becoming a one-party state dominated by the personality cult of one individual. Asiwaju was at the forefront of that effort in every way. At the same time, he was governor of Lagos State, Nigeria's smallest and most populous state, a beacon attracting talent and ambition in droves. As governor, Asiwaju initiated and implemented reforms that have allowed the state to continue to develop and thrive despite its unique challenges. No candidate in this election has a better track record of identifying and elevating talented young people across every walk of life like he can. Our country's political and economic landscape is filled with men and women who have benefited from climbing the ladders of opportunity built by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. His campaign for president today is powered by these same people. Fellow Nigerians, our country can be better, and it will be. For that, we need a president who will deliver a new program of democracy, prosperity, and national security. We need a president who will invest in public infrastructure as part of a broader strategy to drive human capital development and create economic opportunity. We need a president whose clarity of vision is untainted by the pervasive cynicism that abounds in this historical moment. We need a man whose extraordinary leadership gifts are evidenced by the abundance of talent he has nurtured through the years and his capacity to overcome challenges in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. We need a leader with uncommon courage and audacity. We need a president who will assemble the best team and empower them to do the hard work of making Nigeria the best it can be. We need a leader whose administration will appeal to the hopes of those who still believe in the dream and promise of one nation, bound in freedom, peace, and unity. A leader who will lift our gaze from the consideration of small things to focus on pursuing and achieving grand ambitions that lift us all and save the future. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the man for the moment. I have seen him through the years, connecting with people from all walks of life, bearing their burdens and paving the way, and testimonies abound in this regard. I invite you to join him on this inspired mission to build a nation where we harness the faith, optimism, and confidence of the Nigerian people to overcome all cynicism, defeat all fear, and achieve the best ambitions we have for ourselves and the country we so love. Thank you, and God bless you, and may He forever bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
When you hear the sound of credit alert, quick and easy transfer, say we want to serve you better. No be play, we go turn your business around. We are Fidelity Bank. We are Fidelity. Sure you be the person we want relax. Save your money, your girl we dey serve, we no dey tire. Say now your future be our concern. At Fidelity Bank. We are Fidelity. Fidelity there for you. We are there for you. We are here for you. We are the bank for you. We are the bank for you. It's true, do it all for you. Can't wait, we go stand by you. Put your trust in us. We are the bank for
4 million hectares of arable land. Over 200 million people. One nation. Home to Africa's fertilizer company. Dangote Fertilizer. Pure urea fertilizer. With one single-minded passion to feed Nigeria. Every bag is a potential, an aspiration to turn this green nation into the biggest food basket of Africa. Dangote Fertilizer.
Let me tell you, no matter your poor background, PDP will give you the opportunity to be anything, to be whatever you want to become in your life.
Yawa, da so samu ne, Atiku ya samu, wazirin mu da shi da Okowa su ne namu. In ba an samu, wai, da na samu, idan na samu kai ka samu kowa ya samu. Da so samu ne, ku dangwala wa Atikun dai, saboda ba wani shakka shugaban kasa shine daidai. Dala ta karye a cire tsoro a gyara tsaro bana dole mu warke da so samu ne a ce a rike tuta na tsawon minti 10 kuma ba wanda zai huta in ba an samu in ba an samu mene in ba an samu wani habawa to ku zaɓi Atiku da shi da Okowa dan za ku ga aiki da so samu ne mu dangwala ma PDP ku fito mi zaɓe ku fito da BBC rayuwa for Nigeria is hard ko baba ya san ino easy ga tsada ga layin mai ga yunwa ga ba ko sisi rainy days ahead amma ga lema Atiku muke so sai lema da ni da kai da shi har da kema ran zaɓe dangwala ma
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For updates on sports stories across the globe, Aaron Akirejola joins us. Morning, Aaron. How are you?
Yeah, good morning to you. I hope you had a good weekend.
Good weekend. Yes.
Good morning to you, Doctor. Good morning to you.
Status quo antebellum. Status quo antebellum.
Okay, let's talk about Marcus Rashford and his red-hot form at the moment. Of course, he can't stop scoring goals, and of course, yesterday against Leicester City, he actually got 2 for himself, taking his tally in the season to about 24, and that's his personal best in terms of goal tally. And you look at that and just say to yourself that Marcus Rashford has been in rich vein of form since the World Cup, and Manchester United right now are glad that he is in form. Of course, Jadon Sancho also popped in a goal, and you look at that, it was a London derby once again without Antonio Conte. Tottenham Hotspur have actually won. You look at the table right now. Arsenal, thanks to their late win against Aston Villa, they are now first on the table. They've actually opened the gap 2 points away from. Yes, with a game in hand. Okay, you can say that. Okay, so Manchester United are hot on their heels, and let's see how it goes. Right now, there are talks that this is a close title race, and it might be a 3-horse race. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Like Nigerian election.
Yeah. Okay. But one team that cannot score a goal to save their life, and one team that are in a rotten form at the moment, Chelsea.
Yes, sir.
Questions are being asked, when will Chelsea pull the plug? And the Graham Potter project seems not to be working. I don't know, he can't just galvanize the team together. For Todd Boehly, they actually spent quite a lot, over 600 million. And questions are being asked that how do you spend 600 million and you did not buy a striker? And there you actually go. And away from that, of course, on Friday, I had to bring this one in. On Friday, one man, Victor Osimhen, actually scored his century of goals in his career. When you actually look at it, of course, 100 goals, putting in context the fact that he scored 85 in his club career and 15 for the national team. He's a man that knows where the back of the net is, and right now he's a shining light. And I know clubs are queuing up for his signature and will have to pay a premium. He might be the first African to be sold for over 100 million. Who knows? Yes, let's keep our fingers crossed. And let's talk about one man. Very, very sad. And finally, the hearts broke. Of course, this was Kudus actually paying tribute to Christian Atsu, and it's quite painful that we had to lose this man. Of course, Newcastle actually paid a huge homage to Christian Atsu, who played for the club before the game. Yeah, before the game against Liverpool, they all actually, yes, all of them. But the Newcastle fans took it personal. Yeah. They had a parade for him. They celebrated him. But if we yes, and back in Ghana, the remains actually came home. It was actually a very surreal moment for the family, because they had to now live with the fact that this is actually true. Because for days, as much as 9 days, no one was sure what was happening to him. Was he found? Was he not found? Was he in the hospital or not? But his remains actually touched down in Accra yesterday. Is rather sad, and the family were there to also receive the body. And the entire football community are actually in mourning, I must actually say. Now, quickly, let's just talk about how things are for Bendel Insurance. Bendel Insurance right now are looking like the giant killers, because they've actually put to the sword. They put to the sword Eyimba yesterday, and right now they have continued their rich vein of form. And finally, one man, Okpayori Anu, is once again Africa's king of badminton, as he's shown that once again, when it comes to badminton, he is the man to look out for, and he's the man to beat. He beat Mauritius Julian Paul 18-21, 21-13, and 21-18. He's won that title on a number of times. At the moment, he's unstoppable. Well, Christian Atsu, I think we should commiserate with the people of Ghana. 2 weeks after that 7.8 magnitude quake that occurred Turkey and Russia, claiming up to about 46,000 lives. We were told initially that there was hope that Christian Atsu may have survived, but now we have that closure. Very painful moment for his family, for his fans, for the clubs where he distinguished himself. Chelsea, Newcastle United, and everyone that knew him. Well, we commiserate with the family and also the people of Ghana, who showed in receiving his body yesterday that, look, that country values service, that country values distinction. The Ghanaian Armed Forces received his remains at the airport. The Vice President of Ghana was there. The President himself immediately issued a statement. I hope that there are lessons that some other people within the West African sub-region can learn from that, about how to value people who have helped to project your country as symbol on the international scene. As for Graham Potter, well, Tom Burley says he's not sacking him yet. But when they had that humiliating defeat on Saturday to Southampton, which is at the bottom of the table, it was an embarrassing moment indeed. And, you know, they were booed. The team was booed. Yes, they were. And that booing was directed at Graham Potter. But the question is, how much longer will he survive? As for Chelsea, I think the big issue with Chelsea would seem to be that they have to up their game. Now, Spurs, Tottenham Spurs, you always talk about racism on this program. Yeah. Tottenham Spurs is protesting about racist abuse of something after they won, yesterday. And, Kick It Out, which is the anti-racist group, is also protesting that there must be sanctions. This is not the first time that Song will be a victim of racism. And I think that we should support both Kick It Out and Tottenham Spurs, that nobody should be discriminated against because of their color, because they performed well on the field of play.
Absolutely. Well, just to say that congratulations to Manchester United. As you've mentioned, it's now a 3 team race in the Premier League, but they have a big match this week
Yes,
against
they do.
Barcelona on Thursday.
Yes.
And so that's what Eric Ten Hag has said they should focus more of.
And they also have the finals.
Yes.
So they have a big week ahead of them.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
hopefully they'll keep this run, but Premier League, let them just, hold it back. But congratulations, well done.
I mean, my thoughts and prayers with Christian Asu's family.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, Aaron. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll be talking to Tolu Oderinde, a tech lawyer. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Enjoy 50% discount off in the Airtel Home Broadband Season of Love offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 Naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 Naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband by
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Hi there, welcome to Able to Vote Guide. Able to Vote Guide is a voter education series to increase the participation of registered voters with disability and the society at large. My name is Jake Epele. I am the CEO and founder TAF Africa. Let's begin. In today's episode, we will focus on what qualifies you as a registered voter in Nigeria. To be considered a registered voter, you must be 1, a citizen of Nigeria, 2, must have attained the age of 18 and above, and must have been registered by INEC to vote. It's also important that you must be free from any incapacity to vote under any law in Nigeria. Present yourself to the registration officer of the Commission for registration as a voter. These criteria are not limited to just persons with disability. It applies to every Nigerian. Remember that every person with disability participating in this process has a legal right to priority voting. However, in a situation where you have lots of persons with disability in a polling unit, special queues shall be maintained to quicken the process and give priority to persons with disability to cast their ballots with dignity and privacy. This message is coming to you from TAF Africa with funding from the European Union and our media partner. For more information on the activities of TAF Africa, follow us on the social media displayed on your screen. See you on the next episode. I remain yours truly, Jake Epele. Bye.
Hello, my fellow youths of 18 to 49 years. I hope you know your votes will decide the winner of the forthcoming presidential election. Thank you for finally deciding to take your country back from those who have devoured our economy and brought so much pain, insecurity, and unemployment to our lives. Each of you have won PVC, but not won votes. So, whether you are in the north, south, east, west, middle belt, I urge you to start a 1 to 50 persons campaign. Each of you must speak up your phone and call 50 other voters to convince them to vote for Peter Obi and Dati Baba Ahmed. If 1 million of us speak up our phones immediately and call 50 other persons across the country on the 1 to 50 persons campaign, the victory of Peter Obi and Dati Baba Ahmed will be assured, and we would have succeeded in creating a new, secured, united, and prosperous family called Nigeria. So, let's get on it.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Nigeria has a problem.
A really big problem. The problem has made our country sick.
And we cannot remain sick for 4 more years.
Nigeria is sick with insecurity,
poverty,
rising cost of living,
and an escalating Japa crisis.
The good thing is,
Nigeria has a pathway to recovery.
And when we recover, our country will be safe.
When we recover, our economy will grow.
When we recover,
our nation will be stronger. We have to recover from this sickness.
So we can recover from lost ground.
Recover our time, recover our future,
and our dignity
on the African continent. In 2023,
it is Nigeria time to recover.
And together, we can get it done.
Every day, life presents hopes, dreams, and challenges. Challenges that can become successes with a little help. Because a little help can empower you to go from despair to celebration. A little help can keep you going until the race is won. A little help can turn bundles of anxiety into a bundle of joy. And with Glow Data, you get much more than just a little help. You get the biggest data deals in town to make every day glow with small wins and big wins. Dial *777# to select your Glow Data plan.
With their so-called experience in 2019, Lagos's poverty rate was 4.5% and today it's 8.5% with 4.2 million Lagosians in extreme poverty. It is only an inexperienced manager that will pump 10 billion naira into an employment scheme to address unemployment rate of 14.6% in 2019. And today, same unemployment rate has gone up to 37.16% with 1.8 million Lagosians having no jobs. The duo of Jando and Funke have been investing in Lagos's economy for about 2 decades, running their personal businesses, employing people with track records of success. Lagos needs a breath of fresh air. Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jando as Governor of Lagos State. PDP! Power to the people!
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. As Nigerians await a fixed date for the appeal raised by Governor Ademola Adeleke, the People's Democratic Party and the Independent National Electoral Commission, the intrigues and revelations surrounding the tribunal's majority judgment is beginning to have some twists and turns. Delivering judgment on January 27, the tribunal chairman held that there was overvoting in some units. However, Mr. Adeleke and the PDP in their separate notices of appeal argue that the judgment contained errors in law. INEC, according to a notice of appeal filed by its counsel, Paul Ananaba, also challenged the judgment, listing 44 grounds on which the tribunal judgment should be set aside. The judgment, however, raised questions about the reliability of the bimodal voter authentication system, BVAS machine. With elections coming in few days, the reliability of BVAS machine must be analyzed. The current doubt, if not cleared, portends serious risk for our democracy. Joining us now from our Abuja studio to discuss the questions around reliability of BVAS machine using Osun tribunal judgment as a case study is Tolu Oderinde, a tech lawyer. Good morning, Ms. Oderinde, and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Osun elections. The dust has not settled yet. The state government has gone to court. Governor Yetola has gone to court. INEC has gone to court. But at the center of all of this is BVAS and the challenge of overvoting. Now, you have been described as a tech lawyer. I don't know whether you were part of the matter. What is the status of the matter now before the Court of Appeal? Has a date been chosen? And how reliable, using Osun as case study, is BVAS, which is also going to be the main instrument for the election in 5 days' time as Nigerians go to the polls?
All right, sir. I am aware that notice of appeal has been filed and we're waiting a date for the hearing. With regards to the reliability of the BVAS machine, if I may, in my humble opinion, state that the problem is not with the BVAS machine per se, it's with the reports generated from the back-end servers. And if I may give some context to this bifurcation. So the BVAS machine is what is taken into the field on the day of the election. And then information, data is transmitted from the field to the back-end servers. And as we know, there are a myriad of issues that affect transmission of information real-time in Nigeria. And that includes electricity, that includes network issues, software updates, hardware upgrades, and system glitches, naturally. I mean, if I may give an analogy that many of us can relate to, I have money in my account, I want to send money to another person. I have sent this money, I have been debited. I can see it on my phone that I have been debited, but the other person has not seen, has not gotten the alert, it has not reflected on any of its platform. It's a very similar issue when it comes to transmission from the BVAS machine to the back-end server. So just for clarity's sake, in my opinion, it's more of the issues with the BVAS, with the back-end servers as opposed to the BVAS machines itself.
Okay, so talking about the issues with the back-end server, you have done a reliability test using a reliability test BVAS machine as control. What were your findings from this test, especially with regards to the back-end server?
So using the Osun State elections as a very good example, what we found was that there was a lag. There was a lag between the information transmitted from the field back to the servers. So what you had is that the reports generated from the server contained very incomplete information at each point it was generated. So the reliability test, the reliability of the BVAS reports is mainly determined by the examination of the BVAS machine. So for you to determine how reliable the report of the backend server is, you have to access and analyze the data you elicit from the BVAS machine itself.
Okay, so let's pry deeper into this and this back-end issues. So is it that INEC probably didn't troubleshoot the possibility of the fact that there might be variations in reporting, prior to this time? And what can we do to be able to, mitigate this and get a cohesive, reporting system? And also, can there also be backup, servers, as it were, to this? Because if I understand, the BVAS all extrapolates data into a certain server, and from there it's copied out, through the system and all of that. Is that how it works?
Well, I am not a staff of INEC, so I can't speak to what INEC has done or did do prior to the Osun State election or what they're doing right now. What I can say is that the issue of transmission of information is not unique to INEC servers. It happens all over the world. There are always lags. I'm sure we've experienced that at some point in our lives or the other. There are always lags when it comes to transmission of data, especially real time. So the issues affecting the transmission are things that are cut across all over the world. System upgrades and software updates and things like that. So what we need to do is to have a second layer to confirm the reports, not just rush to rely on a particular report as the final or the Bible, quote and unquote, in any election. What needs to be done is that we have a report generated. We then need to confirm the veracity of the information in that report with the BVAS machine going forward.
Okay, Mr. Oderinde, let me ask you, one other matter in this particular case in Osun is about certificate forgery. What, in your opinion, is exactly the truth, which was referred to in the lead judgment?
Well, if you ask me, I think that in all sense of humility, I think that this issue has been laid to rest by the Court of Appeal in the 2018 Adeleke and Oyetola judgment, when the Court of Appeal held that there was no certificate forgery, there was no testimonial forgery by His Excellency Governor Ademola Adeleke. Now, my analysis of the decision of the tribunal, the majority decision, is that they failed to, guide themselves by the prevailing decisions of the apex courts in cases like APC and Obaseki, APC and Ebeleke, where the courts, demonstrated and, espoused that where there is an allegation of forgery or fraud, the person alleging must, elicit information or evidence that the school or the authorizing agency that produced that document didn't, in fact, issue it. And this was not done at the tribunal. So I wonder exactly how, the issue was, to the best of the tribunal's ability, examined and decided upon, really. But for unequivocally, the Court of Appeal has decided on it at the tribunal. I'm aware that the school, the principal of the school, came forward to explain that, look, Governor Ademola Adeleke did go to the school, but at the time it was in 1980 something, if I remember clearly, and the school in Ede was at the time in Oyo State, not in Osun State as it is now. So that discrepancy was cleared up, and it was indeed clear that, look, there was no instance of forgery. It was a mistake from the school in putting the present situation of the school as Osun State as opposed to Oyo State. So I think that the issue is pretty clear-cut, and there's no need to go back and say that the governor forged anything. The governor did not forge anything. The Court of Appeal is clear on that, and as far as I know, that the issue is the majority of the judgment held that he is qualified, which is the crux of the issue, is qualified to contest.
All right. Okay, so part of the issues around the reliability of the BVAS and also the back-end server reports that was presented in the court case was that the judge ruled that there was overvoting in the reports from the APC and also from the PDP, which he retained, and well, he cancelled the PDP's overvoting whilst he retained the APC's overvoting. Now, this gave rise to him there being a recalculation of the end results and then swinging in the favor of the APC because of the new margins. I'd like you to explain this or break this down to Nigerians, especially because people are now concerned that if the results that are announced by INEC on the day of election is open to scrutiny based on the reliability of BVAS, then there will be a lot of cases like this post-election. So can you break it down for us to understand a bit better, please?
So like I explained earlier, right, the reports came in trickles. It's just like you're gathering information in bits and pieces. And at every point where the report is generated, the data is incomplete. So the report of the July 29th that was relied on by the tribunal was incomplete, and INEC testified as much in their reply to the petition of the past Governor Oyetola and the APC. And it is baffling then that the tribunal would then rely on an incomplete document to hold that there was overvoting. But in any case, assuming and without conceding that the BVAS report was reliable and can in fact determine fully the extent of overvoting, it is clear, like you said, that there was overvoting in 774 local governments as reported by the tribunal, and then, polling units, and there was overvoting in 1,001 polling units, affecting the All Progressives Congress votes. Now, what I would have expected, in my humble opinion, is that the tribunal will cancel the polling units affected across board, not just the one that will seem to affect Governor Ademola Adeleke. So if that happened, what we would find is that they cancelled the votes, where the polling units where there was overvoting in 1,001, affecting APC. They cancelled the ones affecting Governor Adeleke in 774. What we will find is that Governor Adeleke will still come out on top with almost 200,000 votes. And I begin to wonder why the tribunal did not direct themselves in this line. Well, you would see in the dissenting judgment of the tribunal that there was a bit of allusion to this point. And I think that going forward, again, let me reiterate, going forward, what should be done is that these reports should be verified by the BVAS machine, and that the BVAS machine is the primary source. Let me go back to that. The BVAS machine is the primary source. Okay. So using the reports to just, determine overvoting, in my honest opinion, in my humble opinion, I do not think is right.
So two things I'd like to interrogate you on. Number one will be, based on this, your integrity test of the BVAS, was there an independent verifiable party to this test? Because since you're speaking, some other people will challenge you that your results based on this BVAS test might be skewed. That's number one. Number two, based on this, your independent test, was there now a specific timeline, a wait time to be able to get all the reports in? Because there should be a sort of like a time frame. Because if you claim that the first report generated was not complete then the other one the PDP generated was complete, then is there like a holistic time frame that we can use based on that? And also, a lot of people will also like to see the raw back-end data, because all of this you've put on the slides are just interpretations. And we know how we write data lines. The raw back-end data of the test that was done, so that other experts too can extrapolate and interpret what was there, and also have very independent body to verify this. And lastly, I'd just like to ask, if this is your defense, why bring it to the public space when you're still going to court?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me first state that I am, like I mentioned, I am not part of the governor's legal team. The governor's legal team has been mentioned, and they're doing their job as they should do. Now, going back to the issue of the reliability test. Now, all the parties prayed the courts for the BVAS machine to be inspected. So the APC, the PDP, and INEC, they inspected the BVAS machines where the overvoting was alleged, and they came to a consensus, which a report was generated and presented before the courts, to say that, look, there was no overvoting in those areas. So as to the independency of it, if the court admitted it and accepted it, I don't believe I'm in any position to determine whether it is independent or not. What is important is that it was before the courts and it formed part of the proceedings of the court.
Hello, are you there?
Can you hear us? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, so I don't even think you got
I can hear you, sir.
I don't think you got my question correctly. So finish it before I react that way, because I was not talking about the independence of the court. I was talking about, independence based on the test you have done. Are there like an independent body to verify based on this test you have done? That's what I'm just asking. I'm not talking about the independence of the court. The court had upheld one as an independent position, which that's what you're challenging in the other courts now, in the Court of Appeal, as you go on the legal ladder. So I'm saying the independence of this, would there like an independence separate body to verify this? Because it's just a case of two positions, extrapolations here.
So if there is a need for an independent body, like I explained, the three parties in the petition analyzed the BVAS machines. I think, in my opinion, that is as independent as it gets. It's not that one party independent and then produced the results. They jointly inspected and produced their reports. I think that's as independent as it gets.
Anyway, let me ask you. Femi Falana, SAN, has said that the urgent task before the people of Osun State is to sue INEC for wasting their votes, for mismanaging the July 16 election, and that he has his doubts as to whether or not Governor Adeleke will be able to succeed at the appeal court, given the problems that have been created by INEC. He went a step further to say that the mismanagement of the BVAS, were it to happen during the presidential election 5 days from now, could create a crisis of monumental proportion in Nigeria. What do you think? Do you think INEC is as ready as it pledges?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I don't work for INEC. I'm not an agent of INEC in any way. But if I were to interpret the happenings, the events of the Osun State election, what I would say is that there is some work to be done. But as regards the BVAS machine, we need to be able to confirm any report that comes out of the back-end server with the BVAS machines. And I think that the BVAS machine works, as has been demonstrated by the courts. It works. We just need to be able to confirm the raw data that comes out from the BVAS machine as the primary source. In that regard, in my humble opinion, I do not think that there is any quote-unquote mismanagement, as the Leonard Silk have heard. I just think that we need to be able to be patient enough to be able to confirm whatever report is generated by the back-end server together with the BVAS machine and other resources that are available to INEC.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Tolu Oderinde, for joining us on the morning show on this all-important issue of BVAS technology using Osun State case as a case study. We'll take a short break now. When we return, Ojinika Ukpe will be here with details on what's trending. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As a player, there's nothing better than the roar of your crowd. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left, they could be extinct in the next few years, from loss of habitat and prey, and snares set for illegal bushmeat. So please, say no to illegal bushmeat. Let's keep the roar alive for Nigeria, because poaching steals from us all.
Great people of our land, at the dawn of light, did you know that while our gallant men were fighting off bandits and insurgents, we were also laying a solid foundation for the infrastructure revolution to spark the growth of our economy? Did you know that the revolution stops not with infrastructure? Now we reap harvests of progress in agriculture, with more than 4 million farmers anchored to the Anchor Borrower Scheme for 23 diverse cultivations, with fertilizer revolution, rice revolution, export revolution, as we now grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Now, as we stand at this dawn of light, let us move forward with renewed hope. Let's elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Kashim Shettima as President and Vice President to birth the greater Nigeria of our collective dreams.
This message is brought to you by the National Working Committee of the APC.
APC Progress!
Esther, you're late again. Esther?
She's a wandering light in the darkness. She's
beautiful. Oh, she's a superstar. She never let her mama down. She's beautiful. She know the fear. She know they ever got a hand for her.
No phones at the table, please.
Oh.
Esther. I love you too.
Got everything? Don't forget I'll pick you at 4.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Nigeria. Tunye bestelu changu. Tinye botugi. Nanchangu. Tinye latiku. Makanche bobodo. Makoganiru. Esinche. Esonyendu. Atikukua. Ngachio.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business with Vault. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business with Vault.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Haruna, BC, Akman, Unduka, how will I want to do on election day?
On election day, I go take my PVC. When I retire, I vote. Now broom I go put my hand for Tinubu. On election day, I go take my PVC. When I retire, I vote. Now broom I go put my hand for Tinubu.
People of Nigeria, make we all come out on election day and vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as president. Make Nigeria for better. Make you put your hand for APC, the party where show broom. Not forget now broom you go put your hand in. Bam!
On election day, I go take my PVC. When I retire, I vote. Now broom I go put my hand for Tinubu.
Come with me, let's talk. Now, you see, confidence is a very attractive trait a man can possess. And it's the entire package, not just the outfits, and definitely not going around looking like this guy. And that used to be me, but not anymore. Oh well, insert music! For me, before I choose anything, I always look out for unconventional, authentic, and very important living with promise. Now, let me show you one of the things that carries all these qualities I look out for. What I'm about to show you is a mix of African roots and modern technology to deliver something ultra. This is uniquely created from honey, camwood, shea butter, aloe vera, and essential oils. Experience ultra moisturization with Premier Cool Black for a renewed skin feel. Oh, and what's a soap ad without a shower scene? Cut to shower scene.
I met some incredible people working for Arise News and also worked on some absolutely incredible stories, whether that was the Bataclan attacks, whether that was the Ebola outbreak, or whether that was making a documentary about the first female, first Black, first Asian Vice President, Kamala Harris. There were some truly incredible experiences, including reporting throughout the COVID-19 pandemic on what was happening right here in London, whether that was the deaths of Black and brown doctors or whether that was on kids struggling to go back to school, which included filming my own daughter homeschooling right here at home. It really was formative years in my career in journalism, and met some incredible people and did some incredible work. Can't believe it's been 10 years of Arise News, and here's to many more.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Ojinika Ojiokpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinix. How was your weekend?
You did it with the swag. It was fantastic. We missed you on Friday. Don't worry. How are you?
I see even the floor manager is laughing.
Yeah, everyone. You managed to crack the whole nation up, really.
Actually.
Ayomide, I will never forget your name. How are you?
Okay, I'm very well, thank you. And just to say that Dr. Bati's introduction deserves its own segment.
Of course.
And then we'll go to trending.
Of course. Good morning, Rufai. How are you this morning?
If you know Dr. Bati, can never be Dr. Bati.
Absolutely. Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe.
In Ethiopia, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari on Sunday sent a message from the country's capital, Addis Ababa, saying that he is fully aware of the hardships and policies of government which are meant to bring overall improvement to the country had caused, and appealed for further patience as the government takes appropriate measures to ease them. The president also thanked Nigerians for electing him as president twice and urged them to vote for APC flag bearer Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the upcoming elections just few days ahead.
I am calling on all of you to vote as well as you, Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
In Burkina Faso, the country's armed forces announced on Sunday that operations by the French army in the jihadist-hit West African state were officially over. Senior officers from both battalions held a flag-lowering ceremony to mark the official end of French operations at a camp on the outskirts of the capital, Ouagadougou, over the weekend. Under sports, tributes are pouring in for late Ghanaian footballer Christian Atsu, who died in the devastating earthquake that ripped through southeast Turkey on February 6th. Atsu was found dead on Saturday, February 18th, under his home. His body has been returned to his home country, Ghana, in a flight that landed Accra, the country's capital, late on Sunday. Members of the Ghanaian Armed Forces helped carry his coffin. The 31-year-old winger, who played for Premier League sides Everton and Newcastle, also played 65 times for Ghana's national team and helped his side reach the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations final.
And the BAFTA goes to Edward Berger.
Finally, under entertainment, anti-war German movie All Quiet on the Western Front won 7 trophies, including Best Picture, at the British Academy Film Awards on Sunday, building the film's momentum as award season rolls towards its climax. at next month's Oscars. All Quiet, a visceral depiction of life and death in the World War I trenches, won Edward Berger the Best Director Award. The film's other trophies include Best Adapted Screenplay, Cinematography, Best Score, Best Sound, and Best Film, not in English, breaking the BAFTA record for the most awards won by a film not in English.
Es ist vorbei.
Du musst jetzt tapfer sein. Für die, die es nicht geschafft haben. Für uns alle.
Well, let's begin what's trending with reactions trailing the meeting between governors, stakeholders, and the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on Sunday, in which the party's national chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, affirmed that the ruling party stands with the position of its governors on the naira redesign. Adamu, during the meeting, asked the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, and the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, to obey the temporal injunction of the Supreme Court on the validity of the old bank notes.
Its implementation is causing tremendous difficulties to the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and to the national economy. That we urge the Attorney General of the Federation and the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to respect the Supreme Court's order of interim injunction, which is still persisting.
Well, amidst allegations that governors and other politicians who have opposed the directive of President Muhammadu Buhari and the Central Bank of Nigeria on the validity of the old 500 and 1,000 naira notes are going against the redesign policy because they have stocked up the old notes to induce voters. A new video showing residents in Osun State being handed the old bank notes, allegedly from the governor of the state, Dapo Abiodun, made the rounds on social media over the weekend.
Wọ́n máa gbà lọ́wọ́ yìí kì í ṣe ní mo kì yóò gbọ́n ni wọ́n máa gbà lọ́wọ́ yìí ẹ máa ná so ó máa gbà lọ́wọ́ yìí ẹ dúró ó ti sọ ẹ dúró ó ti promising pé ó máa gbà á the government is coming back any mistake we are coming back so what do you say to the government for this what do you say. ìyẹn ní kọ́kọ́ máa gbà lọ́wọ́ yìí kí lè fẹ́ sọ fún gómìnà pé ó ṣe báyìí.
Rufai, this video needs to be investigated.
Oh, yes.
The envelope that we could see clearly there appears to be from the governor's office. But what can we say here? This is the reason everyone is saying the APC governors are adamant and trying to convince Nigerians that the president has gone against the Supreme Court's order. Rufai.
I mean, Oji, is crystal clear. This is vote buying, daylight vote buying. And we can see where it's coming from. And only to think it was this same governor, Governor Dapo Abiodun, that said he was going to revoke the C of O. You see, because when these governors are stretching this thing they're doing, they forget that they are laws of the land. You want to revoke C of O of banks because the Supreme Court said, they should collect, the Supreme Court made a ruling on this naira policy, and the president said no. And now, what is happening is the president further made a statement, okay, you can collect 200 naira, but they are hell-bent on this 500 naira and 1,000. I'd like to ask them, what is even the fixation of this 500 naira and 1,000 naira notes?
Well, because that's the denomination
at which they can vote by.
Stocked up.
And only to think that this was the same governor that was ranting fire and brimstone that was caught on tape. I wish you get that tape. What do you play? That was saying we'll revoke licenses of CFOs, of banks that don't collect the old notes. I think the news flash they should understand is that this currency has lost street value. Simple as ABC. Even Governor El-Rufai, Aras had a report that showed that the Kaduna people say Governor El-Rufai is just speaking for himself. In the marketplace, people want the new notes. So what is this over-fixation with the APC governors as regards this, if it's not vote by, and it's evident.
All right.
We're beginning to see it.
Absolutely. Ayo, what do you make of that video?
Yeah, I was just going to mention the same way that even bus conductors are rejecting the old notes in terms of it losing street value. But to Governor Dapo Abiodun, this announcement was made since October. He had between December and the deadline in February to return any old notes he had in his possession. So a question I'd like to ask is why does he still have the 1,000 naira notes? I thought they were defending the people in the hinterlands who didn't have access to, easy access to banks or the unbanked. He's not unbanked. So why does he still have old notes? Because he ought to have swapped his old notes for new notes. So was he preempting the fact that there was going to be a postponement or the fact that it wasn't going to hold? So these are some of the things that we begin to ask. And then, of course, I hope INEC is watching. Yes. After investigations, I hope they will also, because if it was really from his office, it's vote buying. And they even had the audacity to record it and be asking the woman questions and telling her, I hope you vote for him. Yeah. Clearly wrong on all levels.
Yeah, I mean, he is one of the governors that, asked the Supreme Court to have the president vacate that order, Dr. Abati.
Okay, a number of issues here. A number of APC state governors have gone to court. 10 of them now, to challenge the position of the CBN, and you have the matter coming up again on Wednesday. Now, some of the governors have even gone further to say, in the following states, Kogi, Kano, Jigawa, Ogun, that you mentioned, and Lagos, that people should continue to collect the old notes. Yes. Right? So, in their own regard, they have also overruled the president of Nigeria, who has said he has extended the use of the old 200 naira notes till April 10, with the president of Nigeria himself also overruling the Supreme Court in the public interest. So what we face is what looks like a constitutional crisis, which needs to be resolved. And that constitutional crisis, I hope, will form the substance of the position of the Supreme Court when the Supreme Court takes the consolidated matter in the extant case and also the new case that has now been filed, trying to challenge the authority of the president in terms of what he said last week on Thursday. But the courts will decide on that matter. What is strange about it is that it's the APC that came up with the policy. It's the APC that is fighting itself. It's the same APC that is raising alarm. So you have, infighting within the APC with regard to policy. But what should prevail should be the interest of the average Nigerian. Number two, the video that you showed from Ogun State, yes, where a man was saying he was giving them money on behalf of Ogun State government. Yes, it is true that the Ogun State governor is one of those people, who said he will even withdraw CFO and all of that. But did he also go further to give out money that somebody should distribute the money on his behalf? So if that gentleman is acting as an agent of Governor Dapo Abiodun as principal, then of course is guilty as charged. But up to this moment, I don't know whether it happened in the last 1 hour, the governor of Ogun State has not come forward to say, I did not send anybody to go and give money. The principle in law is non ex factum. It is not my deed. We have not heard that from him. Maybe he will still do so. Non ex factum. If he doesn't say anything, then it means, yes, the man is right to act as his agent. However, it's an infraction. Section 121 of the Electoral Act of 2022 talks about bribery and conspiracy under Part 7, and it prescribes a penalty of 500,000 or 12 months imprisonment or both. All the people there are sharing money. They are guilty. I hope that the security agencies will identify them and invoke Section 121 of the Electoral Act with the penalty prescribed in Section 1213. Section 127 of the same Electoral Act of 2022 talks about undue influence. They are also guilty of undue influence. Under undue influence, the penalty is 100,000 naira or 12 months imprisonment or both. until we begin to test that Electoral Act 2022 and begin to jail people. Even if Governor Abiodun owns on to this, which he cannot anyway, the people who are involved in it should be sanctioned according to the law. Because everybody is just looking at that Electoral Act 2022 as if it's just another piece of literature, rather than a law that must be enforced. The true test of any law being in its implementation.
All right, well said. Well, the APC appears not to be the only party. Well, the APC appears not to be the only party advocating for the validity of the old naira notes. On Sunday, in an apparent U-turn, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, appealed to the Central Bank of Nigeria to allow commercial banks to accept deposits of old naira notes. Atiku had backed the currency redesign policy 2 weeks ago, advising the Apex Bank not to extend the February 10th deadline for the demonetization of old naira notes. Well, in a post on Facebook, Atiku wrote, "The CBN currency policy is hurting ordinary citizens and those who legitimately earned their money. The Apex Bank should, as a matter of urgency, allow commercial banks to join the CBN in the collection of deposits of old 500 and 1,000 naira notes. The new currency should be immediately made available in sufficient quantities to alleviate the suffering of the masses. I assure you that when we come to power, by the mandate of your votes, the PDP administration will not allow any Nigerian who legitimately earned their money to lose a single kobo of it. You can take that promise to the bank, because our aim is to create prosperity and not to impoverish our people." Well, on Friday, a massive crowd turned up at the office of the Central Bank of Nigeria in Lagos, demanding to deposit their old banknotes following President Muhammadu Buhari's nationwide address, in which the president directed the CBN to extend the validity of only the old 200 naira notes till 10th of April. Well, in a video, an official of the CBN was seen telling the crowd that commercial banks have been directed to accept their old banknotes below the threshold of 500,000 naira.
Sorry for all the inconveniences. So we're here to tell you that, number one, you have seen the crowd here, and there's no way we can attend to all of you in this place. And I want to assure you that this exercise will not stop today. Even this week, you can still be paying your money in, and that nobody will lose his money. Everybody, the exercise will continue until everybody has paid his money into the bank. So, since we cannot attend to everybody here now, an arrangement has been made for you to go to your banks. Anybody that has 500,000 naira and below to pay in. If your money is 500,000 naira and below, you go to your bank. They will attend to you. If your money is above 500,000 naira, you will stay here. We will attend to you, so that we don't keep everybody here and we are not able to attend to all of you. You can see people are standing. People will soon get tired. We don't want anybody to fall down. So if you have 500,000 and below, you go to your bank.
All right, Dr. Bati, there was massive confusion over the weekend after this video began circulating. I don't know if you saw that video of the crowd, the people that came to CBN on the deadline. And you get to wonder, why is it that Nigerians always do last minute? And people are also saying that this might have been a paid crowd, because it's a lot of people, as you can see in that video. But also that CBN official, we need to understand, why he came out there to even cause more confusion, because as you recall, there was a circular that came out, which was debunked later, saying that, the banks or commercial banks are allowed to take the 500 and 1,000 naira notes. I need some clarity on that as well. But also the fact of Atiku Abubakar making that dramatic U-turn and talking about, they should extend the deadline. What do you make of that?
Well, I saw, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. I think it was a tweet that he sent out yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think the whole idea simply is just to identify with the people.
Yeah.
It's political season. He had gone to Adamawa, his home state, to have a big rally. Earlier, he had advised the CBN not to extend the deadline beyond February 10. But the courts have said, the Supreme Court has said that the status quo should be maintained till the Supreme Court sits on February 22. So if he says extend it, that is in order. What he said, which is not in line with the position of the CBN, is that the commercial banks should be asked to collect the old notes. Now, the CBN gave a grace period till 17th, and the CBN is still standing by that. The CBN said February 15th to 17th, you take your money to the central bank. Guidelines were offered. You must register online. You must not do it through third-party deposits. You must come with your birth certificate. Even if you are dead, come and show your death certificate and all kinds of identification. In any case, I exaggerate. But that is the position. So Atiku Abubakar is just trying to identify with the people. However, the other side of it, which is the statement by the official of the CBN, where there's some confusion in that regard. Yes. And I think we should ask the CBN to offer clarification, because CBN denied that they asked people to bring the money to commercial banks or that it will be extended. So those are the issues there. But let them make the money available. Absolutely. And it's good that ASBFI, the union of bank workers and insurance workers, has called off the strike that was supposed to start today.
All right. Well, let's end what's trending on a lighter note before I come to you guys with this video skit by comedian Nwanyi Newi, who has captured the current state of a nation trying to grapple with a cashless policy.
Madam, one day 20 naira can you send them an account? Madam, I have cash. And my want that 20 naira can send them an account. What kind of magazine can you get?
All right, the video went further to even have the operator, the machine could not even work at the end of the day after all of that for 100 naira note. Ayo Rufai, really quickly.
I mean, it just shows what is happening, but what I will always say is let's keep for calm at this point in time. The banks should be able to upgrade their systems, their infrastructure.
That's the main point.
The CBN too should be able to bring about clarity as regards that, because some banks also issue statements supporting the position of that CBN official, but until the CBN headquarters debunked it, I think the comms team of the CBN should do a lot at this point in time. But most importantly, I don't think presidential candidates should be saying things at variance with, let the CBN handle this once and for all.
Right.
I know you feel the pain of the people, just stop at that, but not saying things at variance with what the CBN is saying.
All right.
Please, let's not spread
really
this
quickly.
Well, just say that 120 naira notes are actually meant to be available. They were not redesigned, so
exactly.
120 there should not be a scarcity. And also,
point.
Finally, just to mention that traffic vendors actually ask you to transfer money. So I've bought things and so
that
people are embracing the technology.
You all for your great analysis as always. Well, that's all I have for you on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.
And that's all on today's edition of The Morning Show. Rochus Odiri will be here next to take you through Global Business Report. Stay with us. It's the Arise News Channel.
Let me tell you, no matter your poor background, PDP will give you the opportunity to be anything, to be whatever you want to become in your life.
Yawa, that's so Samune. Atiku ya Samu. Wazirin mu da shi da Okowa su ne namu. In ba an samu, wai, da na samu. Idan na samu, kai ka samu, kowa ya samu. Ya so samu ne, ku dangwala wa Atikun dai. Saboda ba wani shakka shugaban kasa shine daidai. In ba an samu, dala ta karye. A cire tsoro, a gyara tsaro, bana dole mu warke. Ya so samu ne, a ce a rike tuta. Na tsawon minti 10 kuma ba wanda zai huta. In ba an samu, in ba an samu, mene? In ba an samu, wani habawa. To ku zaɓi Atiku, da shi da Okowa, dan za ku ga aiki. Ya so samu ne, mu dangwala ma PDP. Fito mi zaɓe ku fito da BBC. Rayuwa for Nigeria is hard. Ko baba ya san no easy. Ga tsada ga layin mai ga yunwa ga ba ko sisi. Rainy days ahead amma ga lema Atiku muke so sai lema da ni da kai da shi har da kema. Ran zaɓe da wala malema.
Are you a dealer in cars, jewelry, precious metals and stones and luxury goods? Are you into real estate or are you an estate agent, surveyor, valuer, developer or broker? Are you into the hospitality industry, lottery business or are you a mortgage broker, tax consultant or an accountant? Do you have a supermarket, pools betting and consulting or construction company? If you have, go and obtain your certification from the Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering, SCUMOL, and be free to do your business within the ambits of the law. SCUMOL has the responsibility to monitor, supervise and regulate the activities of designated non-financial business and professions, DNFBPs, across the country. Please note that the SCUMOL certificate is not a guarantee of legitimacy of any business. To register, visit www.scumol.org. For collection of certificate, visit any EFCC office nearest to you. Remember, registration is free.
SCUMOL, securing Nigeria's business environment. This message is from Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
Great people of our land, now as we stand at the dawn of light, did you know that out of the resourcefulness of our spirits, the APC government is leveraging sukuk bonds and tax credit schemes to deliver over 40 critical roads and bridges across the nooks and crannies of our cities, including the iconic second Niger Bridge. Oh, it must be told that we are building more seaports and airports. We are opening up more towns and communities across the geopolitical zones to more economic prosperity. Now, as we stand at this dawn of light, let us move forward with renewed hope. Let's elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Kashim Shettima as President and Vice President to birth the greater Nigeria of our collective dreams.
This message is brought to you by the National Working Committee of the APC.
APC Progress!
Hello and welcome to Arise News. You're watching the Global Business Report. I'm Rosa Sodiri, coming to you from Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines across the business world today. Rishi Sunak hopes to seal a Northern Ireland trade deal this week. Will he get any opposition? Meta is to launch a subscription service for Facebook and Instagram, following in the footsteps of Twitter. China holds lead lending benchmark for a 6th month, but more easing is seen. And we focus on South Africa's headline and food inflation, which is climbing to record highs. It's the Global Business Report. Do stay tuned. All right, take a look at the Asian markets today, which, of course, is President's Day in the United States. The Shanghai Composite Index, the Kospi in Korea, the Hang Seng in Hong Kong, and the Nikkei 225 in Japan, all pointing upwards, picking up where they left off last week. Crypto prices, Bitcoin now at 24,472, reaching a new high, although we see them slipping backwards to start the week across the board, along with Ethereum, Binance Coin, and XRP. Well, XRP and Binance Coin actually upwards. Ethereum and Bitcoin heading down. The dollar against a basket of currencies losing some strength there against the euro, the pound, the Japanese yen, and the strengthening against those currencies. Let's also take a look at the oil prices, Brent crude and West Texas Intermediate, both heading upwards, 83.95, 77.13, respectively. So in Asia, China keeping its benchmark lending rate unchanged for a 6th straight month in February, as expected, with the world's second largest economy showing more signs of a recovery from a pandemic-induced slump. The one-year loan prime rate, LPR, kept at 3.65%, the 5-year unchanged at 4.3. A clutch of better-than-expected data recently suggests economic activity is rebounding as Beijing exited from its stringent zero-COVID strategy in December and shifted to a pro-growth policy stance. Standard Chartered plans to hire 300 to 500 staff in Hong Kong this year in anticipation of an increase in wealth management and lending as the city reopened its borders to mainland China. The lender expects double-digit growth in wealth management income and single-digit loan growth, according to a spokesperson. The lender's headcount in Hong Kong has ranged from 5,500 to 5,800 in recent years. In shipping and logistics, global shipping and logistics giant Maersk says IG Financial Development Limited will purchase its 2 logistics facilities in Russia. The company claimed in a statement that regulatory approval had been received in both the European Union and Russia for the sale of both its 1,500 TEU capacity inland depot facility and its St. Petersburg chilled and frozen warehouse. Meta will launch a paid subscription service that allows Facebook and Instagram users to verify their accounts for up to $14.99 a month, according to Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg in an announcement over the weekend. The new feature, called Meta Verified, lets users get a blue badge, get extra impersonation protection against accounts claiming to be them, and getting direct access to customer support, according to a Facebook post from Zuckerberg. Rishi Sunak is pressing to seal a deal with Brussels on post-Brexit Northern Ireland trade rules early this week, rejecting calls from Boris Johnson, his predecessor as Prime Minister, to take a more confrontational approach. Johnson intervened in the dispute on Sunday, warning that Sunak that it would be a great mistake to ditch the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, which would allow ministers to unilaterally override the 2020 Brexit treaty with the EU. For more on these headlines, we'll cross over to London, where we're joined by Rise business analyst Bode Oshosumi. Good morning, Bode. Thanks for joining us. So Brexit and the Northern Ireland Protocol back on the front burner. Any chance of a new deal this week?
Well, government sources, and good morning, Rotus. Thanks for having me on the show. Government sources are denying that the deal is being delayed. That is the new Sunak deal, saying that there was really no firm timetable. But Sunak is also saying that if he gets a better deal, there will really be no need to keep the protocol bill. But apparently many believed that they were supposed to unveil the details today before presenting to the Commons tomorrow. But senior Democratic Unionist Party MP Sammy Wilson, he said that he doesn't believe a deal is going to come up this week. Jacob Rees-Mogg, that's the former business secretary, also warned Rishi Sunak that the DUP will not accept being presented with a fair, complete Brexit deal, adding that the view of the DUP is critical to getting any fix in progress. So it goes on, but my sense is, yes, the existing protocol did try to ensure smooth trade, but there's been a lot of controversy. Northern Ireland still remain in the single market following EU rules, and trade hasn't always been smooth. On Friday, Rishi Sunak attempted a meeting with the Democratic Unionist Party, I understand, 48 hours of intense diplomacy to try and agree changes. But Lord Dodds, that's the DUP leader in the House of Lords, said there was still no agreement. But the big issue for Northern Ireland politicians is that they don't want to be under rule of the EU court. And I hear that even though Brussels has insisted that they certainly will want any attempt to take Northern Ireland out of the EU court's final arbitration powers, something that would be something they would not accept. So it does get difficult. What is Sunak actually proposing? We understand he's trying to present a new green lane for the vast majority of goods being sent from Great Britain to Northern Ireland where you have low risk shipment, offering some kind of quick transportation processes for traders who have demonstrated the highest standards of secure practices. What that means is that more goods will be exempted from physical checks and almost all paperwork, but these are only items that are deemed at low risk as far as moving to the EU market is concerned. And we're talking of goods that are really targeted into the Republic. But it's a difficult situation, because how do you know goods coming from the UK that are going to end in Northern Ireland, and what else is going to go to the Irish Republic and to the EU market, and will require extra red tape? So Boris Johnson says it's madness to give up the negotiating leverage offered by the existing Northern Ireland protocol. Like I said, the DUP say they do not want to remain under EU laws as the EU court as the final arbiter. And Sunak is still trying to push what he can, given the difficulties. The plan A was that unionists would agree in principle to his proposal. That apparently has disintegrated. It's not clear what plan B is. Hardline conservatives like Lord Frost, who negotiated the original Brexit deal, wants the government to push on with the protocol bill and keep negotiating to put the UK in the strongest position. My sense is tossing this ball back and forth creates relevance and leverage for political grandees, and there may be concern among the divided conservatives that a Sunak victory here will puncture the hard right claims led by Johnson of having secured a great agreement. Brexit deals have proved to be the poisoned chalice to many prime ministers with good intentions, but we'll see if Sunak can turn it to a political win.
All right. What do you make of Meta introducing verified accounts with a monthly fee for Facebook and Instagram?
Well, we understand it to be rolled out in Australia and New Zealand this week before coming to markets in the US and other countries. But I think the biggest story is how much more are you and I prepared to pay for what should have been offered free in the first place, noting that things are tough for targeted subscribers. And I think Musk and now Zuckerberg will soon be finding out the answer to that question. Expect more layoffs if these new product pricing gimmicks disappoint. You remember Twitter initially was the one who pushed some of these aggressive subscription moves. Then they were making fun of him, but now it looks like others have observed that this may be a good idea. Zuckerberg said the move will improve security and authenticity on the social media apps. He forgot to add that it would also augment declining revenues, noting that Meta announced 11,000 job losses as a result of overinvestment during the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's tough. Many websites like Reddit and YouTube already use similar subscription-based models. Other social media apps like Snapchat and Telegram launched their paid subscription services last year as new sources of revenue. So clearly, these platforms are looking for new value propositions that customers will be delighted to pay. And that's not easy to do in an industry where you've already spoiled your customers to attract a huge base that can be targeted for advertising. The problem, of course, now is advertising revenues have plunged, and now you want some money from these customers who are used to getting things for free. The other issue I think will happen is that it would create potential loss of market share for Meta, especially if you have players with a lower cost base able to offer better value in terms of what they get for what they pay. And TikTok obviously is going to see this as an opportunity. So let's wait and see what happens. These extra offerings are not foolproof. Remember when Twitter's pay for verification feature was paused. That was last November. They paused a bit when people started impersonating big brands and celebrities by paying for the badge. So paid accounts can actually encourage impersonation if checks are not robust enough. But we'll see what happens. Looking at Meta shares today, we have to wait maybe till tomorrow because of the market is on holiday. But markets tend to favor aggressive revenue initiatives and headcount reduction. This improves returns for shareholders. But the potential drop in market share could also be a concern. And it also conveys a sense of being desperate for revenues that markets will not miss. And it could be a sign that things may be actually worse than they thought.
All right, business analyst Bode Oshosumi. Bode, thanks for taking us through the headlines. We appreciate your insights as always. You're watching the Global Business Report here on Arise News. We'll have more for you after the break. Do stay tuned.
The Dangote Group stands at the forefront of African enterprise. Since 1978, we've touched the lives of millions of people by meeting their basic needs. Our belief in the promise of Africa has taken us into 14 African countries with substantial investments that will propel the continent towards greater prosperity, promising jobs, improved standards of living, and economic growth. Dangote, for an empowered Africa.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband buy.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
A day to remember in the history of our dear country, Nigeria. 9 wise men from the north who are governors came together on June 8th, 2022 to stand for equity and fairness in the interest of our nation, Nigeria. They buried personal interest for the unity of our country. They supported the call that power must shift to the south in 2023. They chose a Nigeria agenda. We salute our brothers and sisters in the northern part of this country who, in spite of their vote advantage, continue to propagate the unity of Nigeria by promoting rotational presidency between the north and southern part of the country. Let voters in the north follow the move by these leaders. Vote for power shift to the south. It's the turn of the south to produce the president in 2023. Let's vote Bola Tinubu for president for a renewed hope of better Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
What an amazing decade it's been. I think for me, what makes it even so exciting is that it's been built on the blocks of telling not just African stories, but authentic African stories that resonate with you as an African at home. I think having been at the forefront of telling some of those big stories from the south side of the continent for me has not only been enriching for me as a journalist, but it's also been a moment where you're able to take the story to the people. I think for me, the Oscar Pistorius trial, bringing it blow by blow to our viewers on the platform, has been one of those big moments for me as a journalist here on Arise. And we say, here's to many more 10 years. Happy birthday.
Something exciting is happening at Arise Play.
Here we go, guys. He's here. Let's go.
Did you miss it? Look again. Look again.
We have a problem developing here.
Nigeria was a mere spectator to the deadly Ebola crisis, sweeping West Africa, but now there are fears that country could be on the verge of becoming the next hot zone for the virus, with health officials there warning every nation and every individual is at risk.
Anything above 38 degrees Celsius, you need to tell us right away.
This is a bold new world of entertainment. Download the app and subscribe. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.
It doesn't really seem like 10 years, does it? But when we started off 10 years ago, it seemed an impossible adventure, but we did it. We got an historic television channel on the air. One of the most important things for me, and again, we covered all the global business stories in our way. It was a great adventure. I'll come on to what's happening today because I happen to think that that's much more interesting. But one of the great things was, it was seeing beginners actually stepping up to the mark and being trained. I enjoyed nurturing them. I enjoyed helping them with their careers and in turn helping Arise become what it is today. The business stories fall one into the other over those 10 years, but it's such a privilege to be reporting on it right now, because I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. We've never seen the volatility, we've never seen the threat of recession, we've never seen the threat of war, and even the way in which we're working has all changed. So these are enormous challenges, and there couldn't be a better place to do it than with Arise. The news happens to be a great business.
Welcome back to the Global Business Report here on Arise News. All right, is the cashless wave flowing through Nigeria as we speak, starting, of course, in the commercial capital of Nigeria, Lagos. Here's a look at a wedding where some notes are being printed. These are artificial notes, of course, that are being used to be sprayed because the law, the CBN Act, says that you are not allowed to deface the currency in order to spray any notes at a wedding. And so what these folks have been doing is to create their own notes, and they're asking wedding attendees that choose to spray funds on the couples to transfer funds. So go the digital route, the alternative channel route. That's the POS and money transfers. Make the transfer to the wedding organizers, and then they get the equivalent of this monopoly money notes, which they can then use to spray the couples at weddings. There's also another example with QR codes in India, where we saw a couple here. There's the couple being digitally sprayed with phones after the phones have scanned a QR code where the currency is then transferred over, and then that little bit of magic, if you will, is done to wave that over the heads of the currency. So a whole lot as with respect to the cashless drive that's been taking place as a result of the naira swap with respect to the new notes and the old notes, of course, and that whole everything else that's been going along with it. We've also got, I think, footage of a bus conductor in. Okay, actually, no. Here, this is very interesting. Now we got to stick here for a little while. This was noticed in Lagos City. A business center was giving services to individuals who want to return their old notes to the CBN. And this is very important here because the central bank did give guidelines with respect to those individuals who, after the February the 10th deadline to return your old notes, between the 15th and up until the 17th, remember an extra 10 days was given. Up until the 17th, you can take your old notes to the central bank. So this business center was allowing individuals to fill, or rather for a fee, filling out the form. Remember, the CBN has given out a link on the website that allows people to go and fill out a form. You have to provide, in fact, let's take a look at those guidelines if we have them, where you are supposed to use your BVN and also provide a bank account number where you put your information on. Yes, there are the guidelines. Let's go through those guidelines right now. So those are the guidelines on depositing old notes at the CBN. And by the way, you're in line with Section 20, subsection 3 of the CBN Act. The CBN is meant to ensure that those who have old notes but didn't have the opportunity to deposit them into their banks before February the 10th are able to redeem the value of the old notes at the CBN for value. Anyone who wishes to do so, they have only one opportunity to do so at the CBN after the notes have lost their legal tender status on February the 10th. Now, there was a bit of confusion as to the long lines at the banks, and of course there was a viral video of an official telling individuals, in order to reduce the lines, to go to the banks if they had less than 500,000. Now, that of course was not an excuse to use the old notes as legal tender. That was just to get redeemable value. So this is the guidelines here. A cash deposit is not a cash swap. Third-party deposits are not allowed. That means you are not to do this on behalf of somebody else. You're only doing it for yourself. And here's the kicker here. Complete an online form and get a reference number. That's what the business center in Lagos was doing, was filling this out on behalf of individuals. But the information on the form is only for the individual who is going to the central bank to go and redeem value for those notes. So again, just to reduce the crowds that we've seen at the CBN, it was allowed that the banks would collect sums below 500,000 naira. However, that is not for legal tender. It's only to get value. So very interesting to see business centers in Lagos doing that. I think we also have there he is. So this is part of it. So in line with the weddings, what we saw at the wedding center, now you will see this bus conductor I believe this is Lagos City, and in his left hand he has, now he switched it to his right hand, a point of sale machine. So it looks like there is a gradual shift. There is a gradual digital shift with respect to Nigerian businesses, particularly SMEs and micro SMEs, small, medium enterprises, shifting over to a cashless policy so that we can have more digital transactions. And of course, we've seen a big jump in those digital transactions, where in January alone, I think it's about 2.4 trillion, 125% jump in January alone in mobile transactions, also point of sale transactions. So big move there with respect to. Let's look at some tweets, very interesting tweets that we saw over the weekend. Yeah, so this is a gentleman saying, I got to the market today, that's the open air market, and so to my surprise, the guy I usually buy Maggi, which is an ingredient used for cooking, has gotten a brand new POS. Again, this is in line with what we saw with the bus conductor, point of sale, for his business. I equally saw a lady that sells crayfish, stockfish, if you cook soup and stew and the like. I have one too. Love to see it. We're getting there. And then another tweet that's saying the infamously famous informal economy has moved on, adapting fully, maybe not fully, but adapting gradually. The tweet is a little exuberant there. Well done to President Buhari, and for the measure, the central bank governor, Godwin Mefle. So we're seeing that. And then very interesting, still on this matter of old notes. Again, just to repeat, there's no longer well, as far as legal tender is concerned, as far as the central bank is concerned, we are seeing, these are the guidelines, but we do want to show you a very interesting video coming out of southwestern Nigeria where some 1,000 naira notes have popped up in Ogun State. And as you can see from the envelope, they've got the picture of the governor on the envelopes. I mean, well, let's take a listen. Let's take a listen to this. Let's take a listen.
Owó mà ní wọ́n máa gbà lọ́wọ́ yìí kì í ṣe ní mo kì yóò gbọ́n ni wọ́n máa gbà lọ́wọ́ yìí ẹ máa ná so ó máa gbà lọ́wọ́ yìí ẹ dúró ó ti sọ ẹ dúró ó ti promise pé ó máa gbà á.
All right, this, again, has been dominating the news with respect to the transition to more digital means of purchases and have services. So this is very interesting development. It is also to be noted that the governor, Mr. Dapo Abiodun, did over the weekend put out a statement on his Twitter page appealing to President Buhari to allow for old notes to be used. So the timing is pretty interesting that this video just pop up right after that statement was released. But all in all, we seem to be seeing a gradual move to a more digital cashless side, although of course it has to be acknowledged that that gradual move still has a bit of time to go. All right, you're watching the Global Business Report here on Arise News. We head to South Africa to talk inflation after the break with an agricultural economist. Do stay tuned.
Here's a card we no go give you stress at all. Zero waiting, zero queue. First bank is Here's a card we no go give you wahala. Zero trouble now for you. First bank is tell off it fam, tell off it spoiler. Who won't break them? Where you want say now only you get them. Nothing fit do sharp payment not the way. Swipe they code, you know the way. Veteran card with the sweet body. Veteran card we know the shape person. We put you first again. First banking veteran card we put you first again. Generate your virtual card we put you first again. First banking virtual card we put you first again. Just generate your virtual card.
Nigeria has a problem.
A really big problem. The problem has made our country sick.
And we cannot remain sick for 4 more years.
Nigeria is sick with insecurity,
poverty,
rising cost of living,
and an escalating Japa crisis.
The good thing is,
Nigeria has a pathway to recovery.
And when we recover, our country will be safe.
When we recover, our economy will grow.
When we recover,
our nation will be stronger. We have to recover from this sickness.
So we can recover from lost ground.
Recover our time.
Recover our future.
And our dignity.
On the African continent. In 2023,
it is Nigeria time to recover.
And together, we can get it done.
Welcome back to the Global Business Report here on Arise News. We focus on South Africa now. Headline inflation coming down 6.9% year on year from 7.2%. That's headline. However, food inflation in South Africa spiking to 13.8% year on year from 12.7% according to Stats South Africa. Of course, you know that the central bank, or rather the Reserve Bank of South Africa, has been hiking rates. We're going to look at the triggers behind this. what it means for the economy, and what it means especially also for the average South African that's trying to purchase food. Our guest is in Pretoria, South Africa. He is Wandile Shilobo. He's the chief economist of the Agricultural Business Chamber of South Africa. He's also a senior lecturer extraordinary at the Department of Agricultural Economics at the Stellenbosch University, and a visiting research fellow at the Wits School of Governance, University of Witwatersrand. And he was appointed as a member of President Cyril Ramaphosa's Presidential Economic Advisory Council in 2019 and reappointed in 2022, having served on the Presidential Expert Advisory Panel on Land Reform and Agriculture from 2018. It's a pleasure having you, Mr. Shilobo. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to start off and ask you why the rapid increase in food inflation in South Africa.
Thanks for having me on. I think what we're seeing now in South Africa on food price inflation really reflects what for many months we have been observing from agricultural commodity side, and it's starting to filter through now into the retail side. And you will remember that between the farm prices and what we get to see in retailers, there's usually a lag of about 3 to 4 months for a number of products. And we see that filtering through in South Africa. But of course, we do have also our own domestic challenges. If you think about the meat industry in South Africa, we've been struggling with what we call the foot and mouth disease, which has negatively affected the livestock industry, and of course led to lower slaughtering in the cattle industry side. And we see that also coming up when you look at the meat prices. And it's almost a similar story with vegetables and fruits. There's been excessive rains, which disrupted production in some of the northern regions of the country. And taking all of those factors together with those global dynamics that I talked about is what is leading to this increase that you see in food price inflation in South Africa, while much of the world is starting to see a bit of moderation.
So thank you so much for the breakdown. Are you fine with the weighting of the food basket in South Africa? I think there's, I think 35% is attributed to meats, and then you've got like 21% for fruits and so on. Well, cereals rather, and then the rest. Does that need to be rejigged, or is that okay? How do you see the weighting of the food basket?
We actually see that fairly fine. And I mean, our statistics agency, Stats South Africa, has recently done a reweighting of that, looking at, of course, the